Live on the Motor Racing Network, it's the NASCAR Cup Series.
Let's get a big thumbs up. Get ready to rock and roll past the race cars today, pal. Pull boys, let's execute. Have a good day.
Today, practice and pole qualifying for the Cookout 400 from Martinsville Speedway. Presented on MRN by E3 Spark Plugs. Powerful and fuel efficient. Find E3 at your nearest auto parts store.
Under mostly sunny skies and a temperature of 78 degrees, we welcome you to the Martinsville Speedway in Virginia. Motor Racing Network on the air with live coverage of practice and qualifying for the NASCAR Cup Series Cookout 400. Mike Bagley here alongside Alex Hayden and championship-winning crew chief Todd Gordon. As right now before us, 19 NASCAR Cup Series cars are pulling on to this half-mile racetrack to get 25 minutes of practice for tomorrow's NASCAR Cup Series race here in southwestern Virginia. It's going to be a very unique practice session, Alex. 25 minutes for these teams, and one of the things that we've heard all morning long in the garage, long run, long run, long run.
You have to understand what this Goodyear tire is going to do over the long run. Now, yes, it's the same Goodyear tire that we ran here at Martinsville back in the fall of last year as the green flag goes in the air and practice officially begins. But the idea is the track has set over the winter, and it's just a different day. So they want to come out and get as much data as they possibly can for this tire, for their setups of their race cars, Todd Gordon, and understand exactly what they can do. 25 minutes on a short track, that's a lot of laps.
Yeah, it's going to be 60-plus laps that they'll be able to run if they can run this one consecutively. I've talked to a few guys. They all want to run this long and see where it goes, especially this first practice because the racetrack doesn't have rubber in it yet. It had a truck race last night, but these Cup cars we saw last fall really lay the rubber down. The racetrack kind of goes through a change here. These guys are in the first practice. They're going to go through that the first 10 laps of their run here.
Coming up, we will check in with Steve Post and Chris Wilner, who are trackside, plus let you know the 19 that are on the track right now as practice has begun for the Cookout 400. From Martinsville Speedway, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
There's pride in self-reliance, in working with your hands, in harnessing the power of an E3 spark plug with Diamond Fire technology, yielding better engine performance. You have a choice to make. Take control of your ride, of your life, or be the passenger princess of it. Visit e3sparkplugs.com to put the power in your hands.
I'm going fast. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently or having trouble with routine tasks. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services and access available treatments. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. Visit alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
We're back at Martinsville Speedway. Practice underway for the Cookout 400. 19 teams. Well, let me back up. The entire garage has been broken into two groups. 38 cars on the entry list, 19 cars in Group A, 19 cars in Group B. The cars that are on the racetrack right now include Kyle Busch, Noah Gragson, Christopher Bell, John Hunter Nemechek, Daniel Suarez, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Ross Chastain, and Brad Keselowski.
Along with Ty Dillon, Ty Gibbs, Ryan Blaney, Todd Gilliland, Cole Custer, Shane Van Gisbergen, Riley Herbst, Carson Hocevar, Cody Ware. You've got Burt Myers and Casey Mears on the racetrack, and it's great to have Casey Mears back in a NASCAR Cup Series car.
The last time Casey Mears was in a NASCAR Cup Series car, he was starting the Daytona 500 back in 2019. The last time he was full-time in the Cup Series was at the end of the 2016 NASCAR Cup Series season. We'll watch Casey as he is closing in on a milestone, Alex, and that's basically why he's here. He's 11 shy of 500 starts in the NASCAR Cup Series.
And a lot of it's got to do with personal pride, but it's his family as well. His kids did not get to basically grow up watching their dad race at the highest level of stock car racing. Now that their kids are a little bit older, Casey has the opportunity to come out with a little sponsorship, get a ride, and try to get these final 11 starts to make it to 500 career starts. That's a heck of a milestone. Doesn't matter how you got there. 500 starts in the NASCAR Cup Series truly is amazing.
Covering the action on pit lane and in the garage area today will be Steve Post and Chris Wilner. Let's check in with the Postman. Posty, what do you got?
Well, listening to this first practice session, everyone is very cautious on this, and you guys talked a little bit about a lack of rubber, but right now the concern is let's not get too far out ahead of ourselves because this track is going to change so much, and what we have right now is nowhere near what it's going to race like. But listening to Christopher Bell, talked to some other drivers earlier today that are in this first group, and they really just want to go get a feel for their balance of the car. They don't want to worry about anything else. If they feel like they have that feel, then they can adjust to the track and the track that has taken rubber over the course of time. But right now we expect this group to be faster, but again, not necessarily indicative of what you might have tomorrow afternoon. And I think there's just a lot of caution out here listening on the radio to the guys in this first group.
As they're trying to get their sea legs beneath them, Christopher Bell has gone to the top of the leaderboard in single lap speeds. Carson Hocevar second. Cole Custer is third. Shane Van Gisbergen fourth. Ty Gibbs rounds out the top five. Chris Wilner, what types of things are you paying attention to here early on?
Well, Alex, Ryan Blaney is in this first group because he has had a rough and tumble start to the 2025 season. An average finish of 29.5 the last four races, his second worst of full-time drivers. And I talked to Ryan earlier in this weekend coming into Martinsville. He said, but the only thing that gives him optimism is the fact that they've been running so well in these races. They just haven't had the finishes. Again, we have had two blown engines this year so far and a wreck at Las Vegas, but he's in this first group and is now kind of the benchmark for Team Penske. He just came over the radio and said, I know the racetrack's going to change, but I feel really good right now after about 10 or 12 laps on the racetrack. So Jonathan Hassler's managing expectations for this first run here in Group A, but for Ryan Blaney, it's just trying to get back up on the horse, and he said Martinsville comes at the perfect time for them, a racetrack they've been so good at, winning two of the last three here. So we'll see what happens this weekend for Ryan Blaney. They just need to get through a race cleanly and get the finishes they've deserved, but they brought speed, and so far so good here in practice.
Ryan Blaney's season started with the Daytona 500 finishing position of 7th, backed it up the following weekend at Atlanta with a finish of 4th. Then they were 19th on the road course at COTA. They blew up at Phoenix, finished 28th. Then they crashed 35th at Las Vegas, 36th at Homestead last weekend with another blown motor. Talked to some folks at Roush 8's Engines. They're on it. They're getting to the bottom of it. But the good news, Alex, they're coming back to Martinsville today, which is a great track for Ryan, as Chris just mentioned. Plus, they've got some more Ryan Blaney-friendly tracks coming up over the next month of worth races or so.
Blaney's won two of the last three Martinsville races here. So, and it's not just Blaney. It's Team Penske across the board. They're running really well. Team Penske, between Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, and Austin Cindric, have led a combined 553 laps. That's the most laps led since 2019. They've got 4 top 10 finishes. Well, not so good there. The fewest since 2012. They're running well, and they're leading at the front of the field a lot of laps, but they're failing to get cars into victory lane. And in Ryan Blaney's case, in the two of the last three races, failing to get to the finish line with engine failure. The other of those third, he crashed. Ryan
Blaney right now 14th on the leaderboard. His fastest time, 20.309 seconds. That's 93.239 miles an hour. What about the driver that's leading the proceedings in this Group A practice session? He is Christopher Bell. Postman.
Christopher Bell is a winner here in Martinsville. He won back in October of 2022 and was chatting with Christopher, and he said, yeah, but we've been terrible ever since. And when you look at the stats, it backs it up. Only one top 10 finish in the last 4 races here. So their goal is to kind of get things sorted out here, big picture Martinsville Speedway, and then work on this weekend specifically. He's gone out, and as you guys mentioned, he is the fastest time. He's qualified or ran 17 laps on the racetrack, but what he's reported to Adam Stevens is is that right in the middle of the corner, the car, what he calls over-rotates. And Todd Gordon, I want to bring you in on this. He said it over-rotates, and then it breaks loose, being loose up off the corner. So, Todd, have you ever had a car that over-rotates and then deals with loose up off the corner? And what types of things do you suspect they might work on to tighten this car up?
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things. I think the biggest thing is the track's going to go through a transition here. That over-rotation could be that the front end's got a fair amount of grip to it, but as this track rubbers in, we're going to see whether that front end goes away and that over-rotation comes back to him. I think if Adam Stevens is probably thinking about that and looking at where it goes, if it is, it's too loose. You've got to make some rear grip. If you feel like that's a balance you got to chase, maybe a little wedge in, maybe work some air pressures. I would think that that's probably a good sentiment, knowing that this practice doesn't have as much rubber in the racetrack as we'll see come race time.
Christopher Bell, currently the fastest in single lap speeds, the best on the long consecutive lap average. Well, that's also a Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota Camry XSE. However, it's not Christopher Bell. It's Ty Gibbs. From Martinsville Speedway, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Every time the siren sounds or lights flash, someone's life is on the line. At Whelen Engineering, we know first responders carry that weight every day. That's why for over 70 years, we've led the emergency warning industry, designing and manufacturing the lights, sirens, and safety systems they trust right here in America. Because when the mission is critical, there's no room for second best. Whelen Engineering, trusted to protect first responders.
Hi folks, Kyle Petty here. Victory Junction is celebrating 20 incredible years of camp for children with serious medical conditions. As we look ahead, we're gearing up for even more unforgettable experiences. Victory Junction provides joy year-round. Whether you know a child who would benefit from coming to a camp or you're looking to make a difference as a volunteer or staff member, Victory Junction is for you. Discover how you can get involved at victoryjunction.org.
South Carolina.
We welcome you back to Martinsville Speedway on a mostly sunny Saturday afternoon. There's good news, bad news. Good news right now is the sun's beating down, and this is about the same time of day we're expecting to take the green flag tomorrow. Bad news is well, the weather forecast tomorrow isn't the greatest in the world, but given the fact, Mike, that this is a short track, we do have wet weather tires on the property.
And that's been a topic of conversation in the garage because the weather forecasters have been all over the place for tomorrow's forecast. Some have the rain coming in early, tapering off later in the day. Some have it coming in midday and tapering off at night. Some have it starting in the evening and going all night. So we're going to have to figure out what's going on here, but we will not race in the rain. We will race in the wet. And if we have a shower pass through, they have wet weather Goodyear tires that they can put on these NASCAR Cup Series cars tomorrow, and we can go back to that. Last time we saw that was at New Hampshire last summer, and we have seen wet weather tires on ovals on occasion. It set up some great racing and some great outcomes if you were, and that is a possibility tomorrow here at Martinsville.
So if you're thinking about buying a ticket and coming out to the Cookout 400 tomorrow, we would love to have you join us here in person. Promises to be a great race. Right now, Steve Post, the best on the average run, on the longer lap run, is Ty Gibbs.
Yeah, and from the listening to the conversation on the radio, that's not a shocker. They're very happy with the car and very happy with the way they're maintaining speed. Tyler Allen, the crew chief on this car, and this place has been tough on the Gibbs camp. They haven't been necessarily where they want to be, and what they just come over the radio, and you contrast it with what we're hearing from Christopher Bell. Remember, Christopher Bell said it's very loose up off the corner. Tyler Allen just radioed to Ty and said, your car is doing exactly up off the corners what we want it to do. And Ty radioed in and said it feels really, really good. I feel like I can really get into it. And Todd Gordon, I keep going back to you, but they keep using words and phrases. Tyler Allen says your throttle traces are saying the same thing. So what are they looking at down here, Todd, with throttle traces and steering traces? What are they looking at down here and trying to match that up with what the driver's saying? It all sounds good, but there's so many details involved with it.
Well, what NASCAR broadcasts for all the all the app stuff, they give throttle, brake, steering, speed. Those traces come out. These teams get that live, and he can look at how confident Ty Gibbs is going to throttle. When he gets to that point, can he commit to the throttle and go wide open? Is he having to kind of dance with the gas pedal and keep the rear tires under him? I would say that they're seeing that there's a lot of confidence in how Ty Gibbs is going to the throttle.
Right now, Ty Gibbs is 5th overall on the leaderboard behind Christopher Bell, Carson Hocevar, Cole Custer, and Shane Van Gisbergen. Again, 19 cars on the racetrack right now. And I would say that based on the data that we're getting up here in the tower, watching him go around the racetrack and the lap times he's putting in, Ty Gibbs is in a pretty good spot right now.
Yeah, he is. But we take a little bit of a more in-depth look with the magnifying glass on lap times here. Even though the fastest single lap speed, yes, Christopher Bell, there's no denying that. Fastest 15 or best 15 lap speed is Ty Gibbs. But when you really examine this a little deeper, Todd Gordon, we're 40 laps into this now, consecutive laps. Ty Gibbs' lap time last time by himself on the racetrack with no traffic, 21.049 seconds. Go all the way down the leaderboard to Ryan Blaney, 20.8 seconds. That's a huge difference, 40 laps into a run, favoring Ryan Blaney.
And that's the guy that's won the last 2 fall races and won last fall on this tire here. Ryan Blaney really down on the single lap speed. He's 14th. Didn't really pull off that big lap, but he's had that lasting long run speed. Blaney looks to be in his own zip code for the 7 cars that have run this practice continually.
Ryan Blaney and his team have had every opportunity to be frustrated with what has happened in the last 3 weeks. How do you as a crew chief orchestrate calm, keep everyone's heads up, or is that even needed? Does everybody understand what they need to do and put everything behind them and move forward?
I think the biggest thing is you've got to look at it and say we've had race-winning speed the last 3 weeks. Really, if you looked at it, they were in position at Phoenix to contend for a win. They were the best car at Vegas, and they were really good last week at Homestead. We really kind of felt like they were in a great position last week at Homestead. They've had speed. They've just got to figure out, what got them in those positions. Obviously, RYE the engine manufacturer is going to be working on what the failures were, and they're going to work that way through. When you've got speed, you just got to focus on doing your part of the racetrack, and you'll have success out of it.
RYE is Roush Yates Engines, and we talked to a couple of them, Mike, this morning with Roush Yates Engines about the 2 engine failures for Ryan Blaney. One at Phoenix, one last week at the Homestead Miami Speedway. They have figured it out, said, no, they didn't give us exact details, but they did tell us point blank and definitively they were 2 completely different issues.
Yeah, 2 totally separate situations there, 2 totally different causes, but the same effect in both of the engine failures. Ryan Blaney, 3 DNFs in a row. But I kind of liked that it was a curt silence, but followed up by, we're on it, and we're going to nip this in the bud. And look, that's what we expect out of Roush Yates Engines and Doug Gates and that entire team there. And I would not be surprised if we don't have any more of those issues. They seem to have their arms around it. Now, the question is, 400 miles with the way these engines are geared, perhaps maybe it's a parts problem or something there, but I believe that they indeed have their arms around it enough that the situation has been addressed.
And this is one of those situations where when you look at it, there's so much off-throttle time here at Martinsville. Really, this is an easier race. You think about a lot of laps here, but it's not a lot of distance here. And they will shift. There's opportunities to make mistakes shifting, but this is a lighter load on the engine than any other racetrack we go to. So they've got that working for them and a step forward.
As we continue to click away the time here in this first group of 25-minute practice, 6.5 minutes remain in this group. They've turned a total of 49 laps. Chris Wilner, the most laps turned by everybody to this point has been Carson Hocevar, as everybody else clicks by and clicks off their 49th lap. What are they saying about Carson Hocevar?
Well, this is according to the practice plan for crew chief Luke Lambert, Alex, for Carson Hocevar to run as much as he can. Hocevar started pretty snug, and he said, now I've absolutely lost right rear grip. The good news, though, is that Tyler Green is saying the lap times are starting to come to us here as far as pace with the leaders. So you guys talk about maybe the handling going away with these race cars and how tire tires are going to be important, and the drivers are going to want tires. But the fact that Carson Hocevar is starting to find the lap time here, even though the car doesn't feel good, has the team optimistic. And this is another organization, Spire Motorsports, that has shown a lot of speed when it comes to Saturdays. They have a pole with Michael McDowell this season. Hocevar's been on the front row as well this year, but it's trying to translate the dots from Saturday to Sunday is what they've been focused on. But right now they're happy with the long run pace for Carson Hocevar, but again, the handling starting to go away. Right rear grip seems to be the biggest issue on this car.
Right now, Carson Hocevar has just clocked in his 52nd lap. He's second overall. His fastest 20.197, 93.756 miles an hour. Right now off the corner, looking at Christopher Bell, that yellow and black DeWalt Toyota Camry. Alex, I'm noticing something. He's taking some different lines in the corners as he exits turn number 2. He's going in higher into the corner than others and then trying to cut the car, almost like diamonding the corner, but he's at least a lane and a half from the bottom as he tries to cut the car and get that run off the corner down the straightaways.
More times than not at Martinsville Speedway, the outside lane is absolutely not where you want to be. But Todd, when you run consecutive laps like this, do you have to basically help your car turn?
Well, you got to figure out how you're going to pass race cars and go where they're not. I think the other piece, as we get this racetrack blackened up with rubber in it, there comes a point, and you won't see it right now, but you'll need to pull this move during the race, where you need to enter above the rubber and figure out how to cross over and exit low. I think Christopher Bell working on just developing that line and confidence in what he's got to do as we see him enter turn 3 a little bit up, but then exit right on the curb.
And that curbing is a red and white curbing, a candy cane colored curbing on the bottom of these corners here at the Martinsville Speedway. You don't want to hook them. We were walking across the racetrack this morning, and they look a lot larger in person than they do from the tower. Now, both are in person, but we were up close and personal. That is a huge jump if you drop those left side tires on that curbing.
It's 9 inches tall. That is what Clay Campbell has told me. It's a 9-inch difference, but it's almost a ramp shape going up it.
Yeah, that's the point I wanted to make, and I'm glad you got to it. No, it's good. It's at an angle. It's like a 45-degree angle to gain that height. So as you get down there, it's not like it's a step where you clobber the curb, but you're gonna climb the curb and get really loose. It may spit you back off. It's got some angle to it, so it's usable, but it's not where you want to be.
It's not like you're curbing on the streets of your city where you live, where it is a perfectly cut up and down and over. These are graduated, and you'll hear Dave Mooney talk about it in the corners later tonight and also tomorrow, that if you hook the left side tires on that curbing, it's rounded enough that it'll dart you back to the right. And we've seen that happen before. A driver hooked the curbing, gets sent up the racetrack. Next thing you know, we've got trouble in the corners and cars spinning all over the place.
Which is short track racing in the NASCAR Cup Series. You can be chugging along with having a great ride. Somebody in front of you does that, hooks the left front, gets out of shape. Suddenly you're in a mess because they stand on the brakes to try to correct things, and you're driving on into these tight little corners on your line at the bottom of the racetrack. So those are things you have to be aware of. Those are things the spotters have to be aware of as well to try to help you navigate around this short little racetrack.
There are 4 drivers that have just tripped the 60-lap mark. Ryan Blaney, also Ross Chastain, Ty Gibbs, and Carson Hocevar. And we'll emphasize it again, on the long haul, Ty Gibbs looks good. He leads the 10-lap average. He leads the 15-lap average. But one driver in particular over the course of the 15-lap run that is basically keeping pace with Ty is Kyle Busch, and he needs a good run, and he needs it soon.
He does. As a matter of fact, he peels off the racetrack over in turn 3 and comes down the pit lane right now. We got a chance this morning to spend some time with Keith Rodden from Richard Childress Racing. He oversees the competition side, and he is highly optimistic that they got a good chance this weekend to run well and maybe even get a win. Who knows? When you look at Austin Dillon's numbers here from Richard Childress Racing, Austin Dillon finished 7th here at Martinsville last fall. 2 top 10s in the last 3 short track races. Think back to Richmond Raceway. He won the race at Richmond last year, even though he didn't get credit for the playoffs because of the maneuver he did to try to get the win coming off of turn number 4. But Keith Rodden and Richard Childress Racing are very optimistic, Todd, about this weekend.
Yeah, and I talked to Randall Burnett, Kyle Busch's crew chief, about this. They felt like they were a little lost with what they wanted to. Brought a different package here. Understood that Austin had a good run last fall on this tire. As you talked about, the top 10 finish for him. They're still trying to get a grasp on what they need to get around here, but trying things here, I think that could bring some light to their program coming forward.
Keith told us earlier this morning that they're doing something totally different on Kyle's car than they are Austin Dillon's car.
And keep in mind that we had a couple new hires into RCR in the offseason, and Richard Boswell, the crew chief for the 3-car, and Johnny Klossmeyer, who's like a competition director for their program. Both guys came from Stewart-Haas Racing, who really had a good grasp on how to make speed here at Martinsville Speedway.
It's been 63 races since Kyle Busch last won. That came at Worldwide Technology Raceway at Gateway there in St. Louis, June of 2023. It's been quite a while since Kyle Busch has been able to celebrate with a trophy and a checkered flag.
With those cars coming out of the same race shop, and we talk so much about how these teams are in such a tight box with this Gen 7 race car. When they tell us that they're doing something totally different with Kyle Busch's car, what types of things can you do that are that much different?
Well, it's where your springs are, your heights, how you're engaging your shock stops, your shocks. There's so much to this, but just where your balance goes and what you want to focus on. It's things that Randall said he and Kyle just haven't found a combination they feel really confident about, but they're working a different path today.
Red and black flags are flying at the start-finish line, indicating the end of practice for Group 1. Christopher Bell, fastest overall. A 5-minute break for these teams, and then Group B will be out to get 25 minutes of practice for their round. From Martinsville Speedway, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Local radio brings people together like never before.
It's a beautiful hometown weekend out there. We've got
your local stations keep you informed and involved with music, talk shows, and real-time news updates you can trust. We are live and local. We are America's broadcasters, connecting you to what matters most. Text radio to 52886 and tell Congress to support your local radio stations.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to STOP.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Want to know the latest with short track racing around the country? Well, one show has you covered, NASCAR Coast to Coast. Hi, I'm Chris Wilner. Join me each week as we break down the biggest headlines in grassroots racing and in NASCAR's regional and touring series. We'll also talk with rising stars from your favorite short track. Once again, it's NASCAR Coast to Coast, and you can watch or listen today on YouTube, Facebook, MRN.com, or on your favorite podcast platform.
Welcome back to Martinsville Speedway. Group 1 practice over for the Cookout 400 here at this paperclip half-mile racetrack. Christopher Bell, quickest. Carson Hocevar, Cole Custer, Shane Van Gisbergen, Ty Gibbs, fastest in single lap speed. We talked a lot about Ty Gibbs. We also talked a lot about Kyle Busch. Todd, anyone else catch your attention?
Actually, Ross Chastain looked really good for me. I looked at his lap progress. Not quite where the 12 was overall, but I felt like he was in that group and looking very competitive. Trackhouse had all 3 of their cars in this first practice. A deficit for those guys because you don't get to build off of who was in the first practice, all 3 of them being in this first practice.
But they're going to put their heads together collectively now at the Trackhouse pit boxes down there, try to figure out exactly what they need to do, what everybody's car felt like out there. Shane Van Gisbergen, of the 3 Trackhouse cars, had the fastest single lap. He was 4th best on single lap speeds, but on the longer average, Ross Chastain's car looked like it was rock solid.
Here come the 19 that are going to be making up Group 2. You have Michael McDowell in this one, also Austin Dillon, Eric Jones, Josh Berry, Austin Cindric, Zane Smith, Chase Elliott, Justin Haley, Joey Logano, a former Martinsville winner, will go out in this practice group as well.
One of the hottest drivers on tour right now, Ryan Preece, will be in this group. A.J. Allmendinger, William Byron, Chris Buescher, Chase Briscoe, Tyler Reddick, Denny Hamlin, Bubba Wallace, Alex Bowman, and Kyle Larson.
One of the questions we've had this week, got Ryan Preece driving for Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing, coming off of 2 consecutive top 10 finishes. A.J. Allmendinger doing the same team for Colleague Racing. Todd, saw you talking to Ryan in the garage earlier this morning. That's a young man with a driver, obviously, and a crew chief that has a lot of momentum or confidence coming into this weekend. What's your gut tell you about what they can turn in here today?
I think it's a good place for him. Keep in mind, Ryan Preece won a pole here, led the whole first stage, got a speeding penalty out of pit stall 1 3 or 4 years back. But really, I think a short track racer, you look at his grassroots, he comes from modified racing, tire management. I think they're in a good place. I think he and Derek Finley really kind of clicking, and their race team has put it together. I talked to Ryan about it. He said their pit crew, too. Their pit crew has done a phenomenal job. They've been solidly top 10 pit crew, if not top 5, and they're putting the whole race together.
He's walking around with a little more bounce in his step. Speaking of driver Ryan Preece as well, saw him and chatted briefly this morning as well, and just kind of watched him as he was walking through the infield here at Martinsville Speedway. There's an air of confidence that is coming along with him as they came to the racetrack.
And there should be. You look at the performances they put together. I talked to Derek Finley a little bit about it as well, and Derek says, hey, I'm struggling in understanding what the qualifying offset is with these cars because it's so much different than what we used to, the Gen 6 car we used to have. We've got to get that sorted out, but we're putting races together. We've got performance. Pit crew's doing a great job. I think a lot to be built out of this pairing.
Ryan Preece finishing 9th in this race 1 year ago. The next group of cars getting ready to make their way onto the racetrack. Stay tuned for that. From Martinsville Speedway, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
You're not going to want to miss tonight's county fair. I'm going to be...
We are your window to your community.
Did you see the last 5 minutes of that football game last night?
Oh, man, I saw the whole thing.
And a lifeline to keep you safe when danger is near.
Everybody who is listening needs to take cover as soon as they can. This is one of the biggest storms.
We are live and local. We are America's broadcasters. Text radio to 52886 and tell Congress you depend on your local radio stations.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to STOP.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
It's the fastest, most unpredictable speedway on earth.
Talladega Super Speedway. It's not a place for the meek. There are no pleases and thank yous.
Oh, he gets tattooed!
It's not quiet, and it doesn't pretend to be. It's where anything is possible, and everything you've ever loved happens. All at once.
We're gonna get it!
NASCAR weekend at Talladega Super Speedway, April 25th through the 27th. Get your tickets now at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com.
Back at Martinsville Speedway, programming update for you. Don't forget, later this afternoon, the NASCAR Xfinity Series U.S. Marine Corps 250 will be held here at the Paperclip, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, our airtime. And, of course, we are back tomorrow for the NASCAR Cup Series Cookout 400. Motor Racing Network NASCAR Live Race Day airtime, 2 p.m. Eastern Time.
Let's go to pit lane to Steve Post.
Well, talking to the drivers are debriefing with their crew chiefs right now down here. Ross Chastain in a debrief with Phil Surgeon down here. Just kind of, we had a moment here, and then all of a sudden Phil's walked back up, and so those two are down here talking, and Ross is gyrating with his hands and kind of describing what he sees, what he feels in the car, and just kind of describing to Phil Surgeon what he's seeing. They're going back and looking at laptops, they're looking at data, they're looking at all kinds of insight that they have down here. Some of that stuff that we talked about here as well. Ross, our Todd Gordon, our analyst, says he likes the way the one car looks over the long run and just what he sees up there. What did you feel in the driver's seat? How do you feel about your number one car?
Yeah, it's like Todd's done this before, a decade or three. Yeah, it's just so tough to go fast and have the long run speed. And it's no secret, I can Baja a lap. And so I'm just so committed to trying to get better in my life and my career at the long run, and I pay a penalty because I don't work. I'm not, those first couple laps they're running me over. I'm just trying to find a pace that I can keep repeating, and the young kid in me wants to just get on the gas and slam the brake and turn the wheel a bunch, but I need to be there at lap 80 or lap 100. So yeah, Todd's right. There was definite intention there, and then Phil Surgeon and our Choice Hotels boys have a car that will hang on. This tire is really soft compared to the past. We brought it here first last fall, and I learned some during that race and a lot more at Bowman Gray where we had it. So yeah, trying to make the long run. That's not been my specialty over my life.
Oh, I'll tell you what, Ross Chastain's slow down. That's a phrase that I never put together, but that's also part of winning races as well. We'll see what he can do here in qualifying and then back tomorrow with the race.
From Martinsville Speedway, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Good morning, guys. I just want to warn you, traffic is tough out there.
We are here for you to tell you how to keep safe.
Everybody who is listening needs to take cover as soon as they can.
To provide the music, talk, and sports you love. And to deliver the news that matters to you. We are the voices you can trust. We are live and local. We are America's broadcasters. Text radio to 52886 and tell Congress you depend on your local radio stations.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to STOP.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Get ready to rev your engines, NASCAR fans. The thrill, the speed, the action. You can now experience it all for free on the NASCAR channel on Tubi. Feel the adrenaline with a library of unforgettable races from Daytona to Talladega. It's a front row seat to NASCAR history. Best of all, it's completely free. Stream anytime, anywhere on your favorite fast platform. No fees, no strings, just NASCAR. Find the NASCAR channel on your streaming device and start watching today.
Practice and pole qualifying for the Cookout 400 is brought to you on MRN by E3 Spark Plugs. Powerful and fuel efficient. Find E3 at your nearest auto parts store.
Todd, I want to follow up something you said a few moments ago. Group 1 going out, track's not really rubbered in, and some teams may be at a disadvantage. How much will that play into the hands of these cars that are getting ready to go out now, because the track looks a lot darker after that 25 minutes of practice we just had?
I think these guys actually get a little bit better simulation of what they'll have race-wise. The cars on their slow laps coming in actually did pick up some of that rubber, but there's still some rubber left out there.
As the Group 2 cars pull out onto the racetrack, we go back to Chris Wilner, who's got a driver who just came off of the racetrack.
Yeah, and that driver's Carson Hocevar, who immediately sat on the pit wall and put his head in his hands, and the crew came over making sure he was okay. And I talked to Carson, who opted not to speak with us. He's trying to get some fluids and some food. He's suffering from a stomach bug that has been kind of plaguing him over the last couple of days, and he actually said, I felt like I was going to pass out at one point during that 20-minute practice session. So the driver who sat second in single lap speed, not feeling good as far as under the helmet, but the race car on the short run was very good. So they're trying to get some fluids with him, trying to get some also some nutrition as well. But again, for Carson Hocevar, who also had a fan issue for his helmet fan, not feeling too hot under the helmet here today.
It cannot be a comfortable feeling to be nauseous, sick to your stomach, and just feeling crappy and be strapped into a race car. They say that once you get going in the race car that, you're focused on the car, but still you're feeling rough. And then you get out of the race car and just try to get your sea legs underneath of you again.
Yeah, it is. It's got to be a challenge. And then the cooling fans that blow the air into the top of your helmet and across the top of your head, down your face, and the back of your head. If it's not working either, it's hot inside these race cars. So when you're already not feeling well and you're sitting basically inside of an oven with no fresh air coming in, 25-minute practice session can really take a toll.
Well, we've just gone under the green flag here, and we've got now 23 minutes of practice. Watching the Hendrick Motorsports cars, Alex, here at Martinsville Speedway, they've been pretty potent over the years. Matter of fact, if one of them wins tomorrow, it'll be Hendrick Motorsports' 30th win at the Martinsville Speedway. Could it come from William Byron? Could it come from Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, or Alex Bowman? They are the four that could give Mr. H another opportunity at winning here at this legendary racetrack.
Yeah, you're right about that. And when you say Hendrick Motorsports and Martinsville Speedway, it's just a magical combination over the years. Hendrick Motorsports is the only race team in the history of this sport to lead over 10,000 laps at a single track. As a matter of fact, they've led over 11,000 laps right here at the Martinsville Speedway. 29 wins at Martinsville, the most ever at a track by any race team in the history of the sport. Hendrick Motorsports won 5 of the last 9 races here with 4 different drivers. And oh, by the way, their first ever win as a race team came right here at the Martinsville Speedway back in 1984 with Jeff Bodine.
And Rick Hendrick tells the story. If that win didn't happen that day, there may not be a Hendrick Motorsports on this very day, because they had to win the race to keep on going. They did. Jeff Bodine won that race, and well, here we are in 2025 celebrating the successes in over 40 years of excellence at Hendrick.
As we have Group 2 on the track, they've been out there for about 3.5 minutes, and they're beginning to post some laps. Bubba Wallace has gone to the top of the leaderboard in single lap speeds. Christopher Bell is now second. Denny Hamlin in this group has gone to third. That'll move Carson Hocevar to fourth, Cole Custer back to fifth, and then you've got Kyle Larson, William Byron, Ryan Preece from Group 2 that are now 6, 7, and 8.
Right now, we talked about Ryan Preece earlier. We're watching him bring his Fastenal Ford out of turn number 4 and across the start-finish line. What a beautiful race car. It is blue, trimmed in black. Watching him just hug that curving at the bottom of the racetrack. That car looks solid, getting a solid launch off of 2 and up the back straightaway. And I like how he is easing that car right to the bottom of the race. That car looks very, very solid.
It does, and when you go back to listening to Ross Chastain, what his comments were a moment ago when he was chatting with our Steve Post about you've got to balance the tires early on, because chances are we're going to have long green flag runs in tomorrow's Cookout 400. So to not burn down the car too quickly in speed right off the bat and then have it really give up later in a run, you got to find that balance so you have speed that lasts consistently throughout an entire run.
Yeah, 10 lap speed's not going to do it here. You've got to be able to, you look at these stages at 100 and 200, you're going to need to be able to make the long run and make the passes on a long run. When we get in a restart, you're side by side, you're stacked up. The first 3-4 laps, you can't use speed if you've got it unless you're the leader. So having it where it'll come to you 10 laps in and maintain itself through the rest of the run, that's where you really want to be.
Watching Bubba Wallace on the racetrack right now, he is sporting the Golden Arches. He is number 1 on the leaderboard. Let's go back trackside to Chris with an update on Ryan Preece.
Yeah, Mike, we guys were talking about Ryan Preece, and he is one of the masters when it comes to saving tires. He's back home here at Martinsville, a place he just told me before this practice session he loves to come at. He's a modified winner here a couple of years ago, won the pole here back in 2023, and he says he really feels like that this weekend's a chance for this whole 60 crew to really showcase kind of the progress they've made over the course of the season. Derek Finley, the crew chief, leads a very free and open group, and Ryan says, I'm having some of the most fun I've had racing here in the Cup Series at RFK. So they're hoping to continue that momentum off the heels of 2 top 10 finishes. But coming to a place like Martinsville, where Ryan's had a lot of laps here, feels like he's really going to help really boost their confidence moving forward. Just came on the radio and said, I'm locking the left front a little bit on entry, but right now they're going to try to work the long run and see what Ryan can do on managing the tires here over the course of a 50 or 60 lap run.
He's got some clean racetrack in front of him here in this practice session to try to continue to hone in that race car and what he needs to do with it, as these drivers have been able to click off 10 consecutive laps as of now. Bubba Wallace right now is rock solid. Best in single lap speeds, best in 5 consecutive laps. Bubba Wallace now the fastest in 10 consecutive laps as well.
Waiting to see how the average of the 15 laps on and such works for Bubba Wallace. I really think he is on the verge of a breakout right now. His 3rd last weekend at Homestead. Just hearing his post-race comments, we're hearing from a different Bubba Wallace than we have perhaps maybe in years past. And I think, Todd, perhaps maybe the maturation process has gone to the next level with all the changes that have happened. Charles Denike now atop the war wagon for him.
Don't know if it's Charles Denike, if it's, family life, what it is, but a much more mature Bubba and really confident in himself. I think it's been good for him. And they've done a great job working their way together. They've got really good speed. Seems like, the fire-off speed was incredible. We'll see where it hangs on to here. I think he showed up 4th or he did 2nd on 15 lap speed at this point. So really hanging on to it. Thought they've had really good speed the last few weeks.
And he's on the track following Kyle Larson around the racetrack the last handful of laps. He's a car length and a half, sometimes 2 behind Larson. Just getting a gauge. You got to size up your competition as well.
Well, I'm watching the line that Bubba's taking compared to Kyle Larson. Now, they both get the same launch out of turn 2. Now, right now, they're separated by 3 car lengths. Bubba's late on the brake, but when they come off turn 4, his exit is lower than Kyle Larson's. Larson's leaving about a half lane to work with, and Bubba's just got the left sides planted right up against the curbing coming off the turn.
Yeah, so both cars, we don't know exactly how well Larson's car is handling. Certainly Bubba Wallace's car, the speeds show that it's pretty good. Larson is showing up on single lap speeds, but not necessarily on any of the longer runs on the top 10 averages. So, but that being said, neither did Ryan Blaney right off the bat either. Blaney's car really came to him the longer he ran. So we'll find out what Kyle Larson and the HendrickCars.com Chevrolet Camaro is going to be able to do once we get 30, 40, 50 laps into a run.
Now, I'm watching the car that's closing in on Bubba Wallace. We talk about Bubba following Kyle Larson. Chase Elliott is creeping in on the back bumper of Bubba Wallace. Now that gap is starting to shrink, just like the gap between Bubba and Kyle Larson is starting to shrink as well. Back trackside to Steve Post.
You're watching the speeds of Chase Elliott, as is Cliff Daniels, who is Kyle Larson's crew chief. We talk a lot about 10-lap average, 15-lap averages, those type of things. What Cliff is looking at is my lap 15 and your lap 15. And for the first, between laps 10 and 15, I think Kyle Larson was respectable. In fact, he was a little bit faster than Bubba Wallace. Just a moment ago, just before you guys started talking about Chase Elliott, Kyle, you're still good, is what Cliff said. But Chase, the 9 car, he's 2 cars behind you, and he's a 10th faster each and every lap than you. So they're seeing the same thing. I think Larson's happy with the car, but I think right now, if you're Alan Gustafson, you're probably a little bit happier with your race car and the speed that they have in it over a mid-term run here now as we're pushing in on 20 or so laps.
Chase Elliott's got more top 10 finishes at Martinsville Speedway than any other track with the exception of Kansas. Both Kansas and Martinsville, he's got 12 top 10 finishes in his Cup Series career. From Martinsville Speedway, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
You've never been one to idly watch someone else do something for you. There's pride in self-reliance, in working with your hands, in harnessing the power of an E3 spark plug with Diamond Fire technology, yielding better engine performance. You have a choice to make. Take control of your ride, of your life, or be the passenger princess of it. Visit e3sparkplugs.com to put the power in your hands.
On Ticketmaster.
Do you have an unused car, truck, motorcycle, boat, or RV taking up space? Put it to good use by donating it to the NASCAR Foundation. Proceeds help fund medical resources for children in our racing community. Your wheels can heal. Call 844-NASCAR-9 and we'll come tow away your vehicle for free. The process is quick and your gift is tax deductible. Call 844-NASCAR-9 to donate your vehicle to the NASCAR Foundation today. Your donation will help our children survive and thrive.
.5 minutes remain here in practice for the NASCAR Cup Series for the Cookout 400, which, by the way, we'll be back with you tomorrow, 2 o'clock Eastern Time for the Cookout 400 NASCAR Live Race Day. We'll have you ready to go and get you amped up for 400 laps around Martinsville Speedway.
A couple of cars coming off the racetrack and coming to pit road, one of those being Austin Cindric, and he is not having the practice that he was looking for. 36th of 38. Alex Bowman also coming off the racetrack. Right now, Alex is on the leaderboard. They're trying to find some more speed in that car, as Alex will bring that Ally Chevrolet 22nd on the leaderboard of the 38 cars that have taken time.
And, let's talk a little bit about Alex Bowman and that 48 team of Hendrick Motorsports. And when you look across the board, obviously one of the best teams in the garage with Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, William Byron, who won the Daytona 500. Of course, Larson won last week, beating Alex Bowman in the late laps to take the win in the Straight Talk Wireless 400 at the Homestead Miami Speedway. But average finishes this year, is there an argument to be made that Alex Bowman might be the best of the Hendrick cars right now, at least to this point in the season?
I think it's worthy of discussion. I mean, you can put him up against William Byron. I mean, Chase Elliott, obviously Kyle Larson, they're all in the team photo. I think collectively Hendrick Motorsports is in a very good spot right now.
Well, you look at where they are in their points rankings. They're all stacked up there tight at the top. They put races together, and that's something that really, if you go back, this goes back to the playoffs last year for Alex Bowman, because it's just a situation. I had him written out in the first round of the playoffs because I didn't feel like they had the momentum. They put a string of the playoffs together. They got to the point. I talked to Blake Harris last year about this. They started executing everything the way they needed to, and that's carried through to this season.
Well, I mean, they started the season 6th in the 500. 26th at Atlanta, 9th at Coda, 7th at Phoenix and Vegas, and runner-up last weekend at Miami. Alex, it would stand to reason that they're on the cusp. They're ready to take that next step and go to victory lane.
They've got 5 top 10s this year alone. They've got more top 10 finishes this season to this point than anybody else. Oh, trouble in turn number 1. A hood goes flying up the race car of Justin Haley. He slams on the brakes. I'm not sure if the hood pins broke or came loose or what the case is, but the hood went flapping back like in something you would see in a movie, and it now lays back across the windshield of that race car right when he was going into turn 1, and he had to stand on the brakes to prevent from running into the wall.
Yeah, he crossed the start-finish line. All of a sudden, the hood is laid up across the windshield. He locked it down, and that's at a critical point to where the driver is starting to get on the brakes to angle the car to go into the corner. That's going to put us under the red flag with 10 minutes and 45 seconds remaining in this practice session. Back trackside to Chris.
Yeah, I was just listening to Justin Haley's radio before the hood popped up. He said the brakes was bouncing really violently when he got on the brake pedal, especially entering turn 3. He said when the hood flopped up that it is completely broken, so they're going to have to find a way to put the pins back in. He's made his way down pit road. He's going to back into his stall, and the crew's going to go to work there, but Justin Haley was not liking the handling of the race car even before he lost the hood.
Now let's look at this from a different angle, Todd Gordon. These drivers were hoping to do what the Group 1 drivers did, run from start to finish to get a good gauge. The red flag's out. Everybody's having to come to pit lane right now because of this. What's this going to do for these teams?
Well, it takes the long run read out of it. Now you're going to come to pit road, and you're going to work on it. You're going to make an adjustment to it because you can't run this one consecutively. You've just got to come down. I think everybody's going to take a stab at it, and maybe if they've got teammates that were in the first one, they'll see what they thought out about the long run there. But an opportunity to work on your race car because you can't get the long run that you were hoping for.
The contrast compared to this, Carson Hocevar has run the most laps of practice. He was in Group 1. He turned in a 68-lap performance. Bubba Wallace, the driver that's fastest in this second group, he's only turned in 36 laps. And then Denny Hamlin, 36. You've also got 36 for Larson and Byron. So basically halfway through the run of Group 2, everybody has to come in and get a moment to collect their breath, where everybody in Group 1 was straight through with no stoppage.
As the AMR safety trucks will go out on the track, do a quick track inspection before we put the field back under the green flag, there was still about 10 minutes or so left in this practice session. I looked down at the clock. It's still winding down, so we'll see if they're going to add that extra minute or so back to the clock. Meanwhile, let's hear from Bubba Wallace.
Bubba Wallace is in the race car, and Charles Denick and him are working on it. But what Bubba has said, and exactly what you guys are talking about, they wanted to go do a long run, and they felt pretty good about the race car. The only thing he observed about the race car is that I'm a little too tight cutting back through the rubber. And so with this time, just as Todd Gordon said, Charles Denick brought him down, and they're going to make a small adjustment on that. They're not going to get a chance to see what it does over a long consecutive run, but now they're going to see what this adjustment does. The other thing they're looking at as well is, Charles says, this will give us a chance to see what it's like to get on another tire cycle. In other words, the tires cool down and what this does when they heat back up. So you're always learning down here. Yeah, Plan A was to run 60, 65 laps. Plan A didn't happen. Plan B is to get this, and this. And that's exactly what they're doing down here in Bubba Wallace pit. But it starts with a fairly good race car, and that's what they seem to have here this afternoon.
NASCAR has just added 2 minutes of practice for these drivers as everybody begins to angle their way back out onto the racetrack. On the track as we speak include Austin Cindric, Austin Dillon, Josh Berry, Chris Buescher, A.J. Allmendinger, and pulling onto the surface, you have Joey Logano. Alex Bowman is on his way back out onto the racetrack as now we have 9.5 minutes to go in this group's practice.
And Chase Elliott will pull away from his spot on the pit lane and now work his way on the track. Bubba Wallace, they took the right rear off of that car to make an adjustment. You heard Steve Post talking about that. Put the right rear back on, and he's now going to roll back out on the track.
Yeah, this is one of those adjustments that you don't know. There's several things they could have done under there, made a wedge adjustment. You would think that you could do that up at the window, but they may want to do it down there. You could have made a shock valving adjustment. Maybe change the valving, put a little more compression in it, just to see if it'll help make that point a little bit more live. So there's several things they could have done. If there's a rear bar in this car, they could have made an adjustment there as well. So several things there. But another one that really probably wasn't too happy with their day and came to pit road early, Austin Cindric was to pit road. Chris Wilner, you got more with him?
Yeah, Todd, I was monitoring the radio under that red flag when Austin came down. They went about a number or two freer on adjustments here before he sent them back out. Austin said, it is just tight everywhere. I'm locking the left front just about every single lap, and it just won't turn. So they went pretty heavy on the adjustments. They had the hood up as well. So expect Austin Cindric to hopefully find a little bit more of a freer balance in this final run. But Brian Wilson said, we got to take a big stab at it because they were not in the ballpark in that first run.
Well, just looking at Austin's lap times, it's not working. He's still 36th overall, and he just lost a 10th in 2 laps. So I'm sure there's a lot of head scratching going on. Listen, that's a smart bunch over there between Austin and Brian Wilson and everybody on that 2 car. But there's work still left to be done. He is the 3rd from last slowest car. Todd?
And 34 laps in, you're not going to make an adjustment and make this thing go to the top of the board. You're on old tires. You're just hoping to find a balance change at this point for these guys. I'm with you. They have work to do. The good part is their teammates really happy with his race car, and he's got really good pace. They've got a notebook that they can compare themselves against with Ryan Blaney and maybe make some adjustments for qualifying and race.
A.J. Allmendinger making a pass on the racetrack here in practice. He just went right by Chris Buescher and is driven away by the tone of 2 car lengths on him. So Allmendinger is another driver and team. Crew chief Trent Owens, top 10 finish last week at Homestead Miami Speedway, coming to Martinsville where A.J.'s not that bad.
7th last week at Homestead, 8th at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway the week prior. And let's be honest, when we mention A.J. Allmendinger's name, a lot of folks probably think of road course racing. Well, in the Xfinity Series for Kaulig, he did a lot of winning on the ovals. And Todd, you've got some experience working with AJ on both road courses and ovals.
I finished 2nd here at Martinsville with AJ in 2012 in the spring race. He's got the braking techniques to really get into the corners here and attack them. I think he's capable of being in competition here for top 10 finishes. I think this is a good place for him.
Spent some time with his crew chief Trent Owens at midweek this week, and he had nothing but high praise with A.J. Allmendinger. And we all know A.J., and if you've been around the sport enough, you understand he is by far and away his own worst critic, which can be a good thing. But he is just to the point where he's almost downgrading himself. But I think Trent takes that and uses that as a reverse psychology mode against his driver and gets him to understand that, dude, you're actually pretty good. And A.J. is buying into it. So that relationship between driver A.J. Allmendinger and his crew chief Trent Owens is beginning to blossom. And Mike gave you the numbers here in the last few races. They're really trending in the right direction.
He has gone where he has been asked to go by owner Matt Kaulig president Chris Rice. They had him in Cup. They sent him to the Xfinity Series. They've asked him to come back to the NASCAR Cup Series. And with every request, AJ has been glad to accommodate. Yes, I'll do this. I'll do whatever you want me to do. He's in it for the long haul with Kaulig Racing. And obviously, they're entering Martinsville this weekend with a little extra bounce in their step, considering what they've accomplished in the last couple of weeks.
He is a true definition of a good teammate. And every professional team has what we call the locker room kind of guy. And I think A.J. Allmendinger fits that mold perfectly at Kaulig Racing. He does whatever the team needs done. At any level it needs to be done. And he does it with conviction, and he does it with passion, and he does it to the best of his ability. And he wins races, not just on road courses, but he has quite a few oval track wins as well under his belt. So it's great to have a locker room type mentality who's also become quite the leader when it's time to perform.
Watching Kyle Larson follow A.J. Allmendinger into turns 1 and 2. That HendrickCars.com Chevrolet, that red, white, and blue livery for Kyle Larson. 6th in single lap speed. The fastest lap he turned in was a 20.204. If you translate that to miles per hour, that is 93.724 miles per hour. On this racetrack, just watching Kyle just survey his options, almost getting into a rhythm right now as they continue just to turn laps. Kyle just turning in his 40th lap of this practice session.
I've been paying attention because with this softer Goodyear tire, and again, it's the same one we raced here back in the fall of a year ago, looking at how the lap times slow down, and I'll go back to the first practice session because we have a complete gauge on that, and I'll use Ryan Blaney. We know Blaney's car is pretty good the longer they ran. His last lap was his 67th lap. Speaking of Ryan Blaney, ran a 21.521 second lap. His best lap was a 20.309. So we're talking about 1.2 seconds of lap time slowdown over 60 some odd laps here. Is that about what you would expect, Todd?
Yes, I think it is. It's just where they go to. Keep in mind the runs will be 100 laps. They'll be longer than this, and that pace seems to be continuing to pass off. So I would expect to see, its second half closing in on 2 seconds in a full stage if it went green. That's good, because I think that brings it back to where the drivers have to manage tires, and the guys that do that will come to the front as the stages end.
3 minutes left in this round of practice for Group 2. Then we're going to rack them all up. Everybody is going to get 2 laps of qualifying, and then we'll have the lap of record for the starting lineup for tomorrow's Cookout 400. Looking at Denny Hamlin in that progressive Toyota Camry coming off the end of the front straightaway. 3rd overall in single lap speed. And it's hard to believe, Alex, that Denny is in a 10-year winless skid here at this racetrack.
It really is, because we would always come to Martinsville Speedway, and the idea is you're going to have to beat Denny Hamlin. That all being said, though, Denny still gets around this track exceptionally well. Top 5 finishes here in Martinsville, 4 of his last 5 starts. So even though it's been 10 years since he's actually won here, he's still in contention every time we unload.
And perhaps maybe a trip to the Martinsville Speedway is exactly what Denny Hamlin needs, because he and the team have been riding quite the roller coaster. Started the season with a 24th at Daytona in the 500, 6th at Atlanta, 21st at Coda, 2nd at Phoenix, 25th at Vegas, 5th at Homestead. Up, down. I'm sure Chris Gale and that team want to level out and establish a plane of consistency.
No question about that, and I think that's something that will come here the more races they work together and get that communication down where it needs to be to have those types of runs on a consistent basis. We're down to 1 minute and 30 seconds to go here in practice for the Cookout 400. Right now, let's pause 10 seconds for station identification on the Motor Racing Network. Motor Racing Network live at Martinsville Speedway. The NASCAR Cup Series cars getting their one and only practice session for tomorrow's Cookout 400. In just a moment, we'll be qualifying for tomorrow's race. My name is Alex Hayden. Alongside is Mike Bagley and Todd Gordon. We are high atop the start-finish line here at the Paperclip track, basking right now in Virginia sunshine. We've got Steve Post and Chris Wilner on the pit lane.
79 degrees, a perfect day for racing here in southwestern Virginia. The NASCAR Xfinity Series coming up later this afternoon. The U.S. Marine Corps 250. Be sure to join us later today. It'll be the second race in the Dash for Cash for those Xfinity Series drivers. 4 drivers have a chance to go for $100,000 in bonus money. Alex, 30 seconds to go. No real changes on the leaderboard. When you look at things overall, Bubba Wallace will be the fastest driver of record in practice. His Toyota teammate Christopher Bell in second. His Toyota teammate Denny Hamlin in third. Then you get the fastest Chevrolet with Carson Hocevar in fourth, and the fastest Ford, Cole Custer, in the number 5 position. Again, these are single lap times.
And 3 of those have come out of group number 1, which the track did not have all the rubber down and had the most speed in the track. So even though that's where they are, and that's something you can bolster yourself about, realistically, it's a bit skewed. I think when it's time to put the cars out there to go qualifying here in just a bit, we'll get a much better idea who's going to have what.
And really, the guys that were in Group 1 are going to be a little bit of a deficit, because as we watch the red and black come out here to end this practice, the racetrack's got a fair amount of rubber in it. Those guys that are in Group 1 are going to have to go out on a rubbered racetrack. That will get picked up as the cars go. The cooler tires of qualifying will pick that rubber up. It slows you down, but it makes the racetrack faster. Guys really want to be in the second group. We'll see how these guys fare in the first group.
And as Todd mentioned, the red and black flags have been displayed. Practice is over. Everyone's going to take a bit of a pause, and we'll get ready for qualifying for the Cookout 400 from Martinsville Speedway. This is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Every time the siren sounds or lights flash, someone's life is on the line. At Whelen Engineering, we know first responders carry that weight every day. That's why for over 70 years, we've led the emergency warning industry, designing and manufacturing the lights, sirens, and safety systems they trust right here in America. Because when the mission is critical, there's no room for second best. Whelen Engineering, trusted to protect first responders.
Hi folks, Kyle Petty here. Victory Junction is celebrating 20 incredible years of camp for children with serious medical conditions. As we look ahead, we're gearing up for even more unforgettable experiences. Victory Junction provides joy year-round. Whether you know a child who would benefit from coming to a camp or you're looking to make a difference as a volunteer or staff member, Victory Junction is for you. Discover how you can get involved at victoryjunction.org.
Back at Martinsville Speedway, practice is over. Going to have about a 10-minute break here for teams to collect themselves and get their breaths. They're pushing the cars slowly to the front of the grid. Actually, what would be the exit of pit road off turn number 2. We'll get the cars all lined up and ready to go. Again, everybody gets 2 laps and 2 laps only. 1 round of qualifying for the Cookout 400. Let's check in with Steve Post.
Crews down here just kind of working through the system right now. Group A drivers, crew chiefs have watched what maybe their teammates have done in group number 2, the second group out there, and going to adjust their cars accordingly, because now it's time to go out and get a fast single lap, and that's what we're looking for. So that's what's going on down here now. The drivers that just came off the racetrack, they are in that initial debrief mode. We get a little bit on the radio. We get a little insight. The car is loose, the car is tight. But when they climb out of the race car and they're going toe-to-toe with that crew chief, that's when the arms are moving around, and that's when all the details are there. That's also when they're looking at all of that telemetry that we've talked about during this. So the Group B drivers are doing that. The Group A drivers are getting ready to put the finishing touches on their setup. NASCAR is going to beckon the cars to pit road, and momentarily we'll have some drivers out there getting ready to qualify their automobiles.
Yeah, that's coming up here very soon. And, you know, qualifying is important everywhere we go because that is the order in which you pick your pit box. However, when you look at the numbers, the last 5 Cup races here at the Martinsville Speedway, the winner of the race started outside of the top 10.
So as we look at this and we look at the layout of pit road, we touched on this last night of the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series event. We're going to touch on it again. This used to be a double-sided racetrack, a double-sided pit road, where after reconfiguration, the entrance to pit road is at the end of the backstretch in turn 3. It basically loops around the corner, goes all the way down the front stretch, loops around turns 1 and 2, and the exit is off of turn number 2. With that, Todd Gordon, I assume there would be some advantages at certain parts on the pit lane to pick your pit box. Did you have any favorite boxes here that you like to pick?
I didn't like it for the reason of pit stall. I liked it for what I could see out of my race car. I always wanted to be, and I'm a big being low numbers. I want to be in 1 if I can. Win the pole, you can be there. We won a few with Joey, so we got that opportunity. I like to be in the single-digit pit stalls for a couple reasons. One, I have less cars driving around my pit crew while they're out there on the right side of the car. They're less playing in traffic. And 2, when I was down in the corner of 1 and 2, I could watch the balance of the race car and really kind of see what the driver was talking about. And sometimes we might make adjustments differently because we can see some things that are kind of better seen in person.
To pit road and Chris Wilner.
Ryan Blaney was in Group 1, getting ready to go qualifying. I know Group 1's hard here at Martinsville. Don't really get a good read, but what did you feel overall in that 20 minutes?
Yeah, I finally started laying a little rubber down there, 2/3 of the way through our session. But, yeah, looking for a little bit more comfort, I guess, through the run, things like that. I think our pace is okay. Just got to get it a little bit more, a little bit driving just a touch better and not be hanging on so much. So we'll see. Have to go back and look at it tonight. But now it's how do you make one quick one, and hopefully we can do that.
Let's say, how do you make one quick one, especially when you really don't know?
It's hard. I've never really qualified great here. You got to kind of switch up the mentality of your lane and what you need of it. So hopefully we can finally figure it out and just kind of bonsai it in there. That's kind of what you do to make lap time quick here. And Hopefully you hit it right.
Appreciate it. Ryan Blaney, like he said, hadn't really qualified well here, but it hadn't mattered. He's been that number one pit stall at pit entry off of turn number 3. Both times he's won the fall races here at Martinsville Speedway. So obviously trying to get after everything you can in qualifying, but we'll see what Ryan Blaney has, especially for the race on Sunday.
Qualifying here is totally different than race balance. And having to do that with what you've got, it reminds me going back to when Joey Logano first came to Team Penske. We came here, we were about 23rd, 24th. He looked at it, he's like, oh, I got to drive that deep in the corner. And he went out there, qualified 4th. Those guys can see it, but it does. It takes a whole different attack.
And, of course, with this race car, you drive even deeper than probably you did with Joey, right? Like how deeper do you drive these cars, do you think?
Lap times are about the same. But you just, the brakes are really good. So you can go a little deeper and get right after the brakes.
After practice, Steve Post, the driver you're standing alongside, had a really good fast lap.
Well, Christopher Bell, and indeed, Christopher, on the single lap run, you had a really good time. But how did you feel overall about your Toyota?
I wish I could sit here and tell you I felt really good about it, but I don't know. Just trying to get a handle on the balance migration seems like the hardest part. And for the most part, everyone in the field has the same problem. It seems like there's a certain couple that can manage it a little bit better than the rest of us. And I've always said that qualifying doesn't matter on the days that you're really good and you're great. You're able to drive up through the field and be, and qualifying doesn't really affect you. But it's those days where you're just kind of another guy. If you qualify in the teens, you're going to race in the teens. If you qualify in the back half of the top 10, you're going to race back there. So for what I felt in practice, I think this is an important qualifying session.
Christopher, you and I chatted. You won here 5 races ago back in 2022, and you even acknowledged that this has been a bit of a struggle since. Goal for this weekend, I know winning races, but what would make it coming out of here, like if you felt like, okay, we finally made some progress on this place?
Yeah, just having some pace on the long run would be nice. And that day that I won in 2022, we were competitive. I led a lot of laps. I didn't qualify well. It was one of those days where I had a great car, and I was able to pass guys, work my way up through there, and we were really strong. We were a competitive car, and ever since then, I'm just another guy out there. And we've had days where we execute really well and we can run the back half of the top 10. And we've had days where we can't execute and we don't have the pace, and then it's a 30th place day. So, yeah, need to do a good job here and run 2 good laps.
We'll see what happens with it. Christopher Bell, it's really strange talking to him about struggling in a racetrack, as talented as he and this team are.
If he wins the pole today, it will be his 14th pole in this generation race car. From Homestead, from Martinsville Speedway, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Hi, I'm Ryan Blaney, a third-generation race car driver, and I dedicate a lot of my time going fast. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently or having trouble with routine tasks. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services and access available treatments. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. Visit alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Looking for weekly motorsports podcasts to stay up to date on what's happening on and off the track? The Motor Racing Network is the place. Hear from NASCAR crew chiefs on MRN Crew Call. All the happenings from regional touring series and local tracks on NASCAR Coast to Coast. Sprint Car Talk on Winged Nation. NASCAR history on MRN Classic Races. And hear from the drivers on NASCAR Live. MRN podcasts available on MRN.com, YouTube, or your favorite podcast platform.
Back at Martinsville Speedway, we are getting ready for qualifying for the Cookout 400. Again, be sure to tune in tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll have NASCAR Live Race Day and coverage of the 7th race of the season for the NASCAR Cup Series. First car has pulled out onto the racetrack.
And that will be Burt Myers from Walnut Cove, North Carolina, just north of Winston-Salem. Of course, a Bowman Gray Stadium modified champion multiple times. He ran the heat races for the Cookout Clash at Bowman Gray. Did not make the main event. getting in position to try to make his first career NASCAR Cup Series start.
Of course, works in the shop there at Rick Ware Racing. They're giving him his first opportunity to race in a points-paying NASCAR Cup Series race. He will be in the show tomorrow. He has just completed his first lap. He is under the white flag. His first lap, 20.837 seconds, 90.877 miles an hour.
And he'll bring that car in the middle of the racetrack. Misses the line at the bottom, kicks the back sideways when he applies the throttle, and the checkered flag goes out for Burt Myers. And Burt Myers sets the mark at 20.613 seconds.
Coming up, we've got Casey Mears. He'll pull onto the racetrack. Haven't seen Casey on track in a while before today. Also, Cody Ware, Carson Hocevar, Riley Herbst, Shane Van Gisbergen, Cole Custer, Todd Gilliland. Those drivers that are queued up and ready to qualify here at Martinsville.
And Casey Mears pulls onto the racetrack, 47-year-old out of Bakersfield, California. Calls Scottsdale, Arizona home right now.
As he takes the green flag, we go trackside and hear from a former Martinsville winner.
And that's Kyle Busch, who's getting ready to go qualifying here at Martinsville. Kyle, we were just talking about, you had a special moment on Wednesday, getting a race against your son Brexton at Millbridge. As a dad and a racer, how do you balance those two when you both were out there on the racetrack? Or did you?
Well, thankfully he was behind me, so I didn't have to pass him in that aspect of it. But he ran a really good race, did a great job. Just maybe missed a little bit in the heat race, not being able to keep a spot. That would have put him starting in front of me, But obviously just well prepared. Kid does a great job, so we had a lot of fun with that. But hopefully here at Martinsville we can get our Lucas Oil Chevrolet where we want it and have a good race here on Sunday, get ourselves another top 10 finish on the year.
How was it on the long run speed? It looked like the longer the run went, it felt better. So what was it like behind the wheel having to adjust to that?
It's typical Martinsville, loose in, tight middle, loose off, So you just got to be better than all the rest when all of that starts to happen. Felt good with it on the front side of the run, but the speed, the positions are really made on the long run. So a little bit of work to do there.
All right, that's Kyle Busch, guys. Long run speed good. They're going to try to see where he qualifies here in just a minute.
Got to wait and see. He's got quite a few cars before he takes to the racetrack for his qualifying laps. On the speedway right now is Cody Ware. He's got the red and white Arby's machine working his way down into turn number 3. Cody Ware running the full time this season in the Cup Series. Mike, he's the third car to qualify, and all three of them are having some trouble down in turns 3 and 4.
Well, Casey Mears just bypassed Burt Myers, and Cody Ware just actually put up the fastest lap of all three of them, although had a little challenge. He lost the back end of the car midway through the corner. But Cody Ware, after lap number 1, he'll go to the top with a 22.68. See what he does here on lap number 2 as he takes the checkered flag.
There's no way this can be better because he went way up the racetrack in turn number 1 to begin his second lap, Todd.
A little bit loose in, as we heard from Kyle Busch there, of loose, tight, loose. He was really loose in. Took him all the way up to the asphalt. 3 lanes up the racetrack in the middle of 1 and 2. Hurt that second lap, but a good first lap at a 20.268.
If you are just joining us, Carson Hocevar was one of the fastest cars in Group 1, but Chris Wilner talked to Carson after he got out of the car, not feeling 100%, had to take some time to collect his thoughts, and perhaps maybe suffering from a stomach bug or whatnot. He is back in the car, and that Delaware Life Chevrolet Camaro off the end of the back straightaway, looking to complete his first lap of qualifying.
Yeah, we'll find out exactly what the car has in it here. He is one of the early cars to qualify, obviously, the 4th driver on the track. His first lap is good enough to go to the top of the leaderboard, 19.991 seconds. That's 94.723 miles per hour, digging for a second lap. Todd, you mentioned that these first cars to qualify, a bit of a disadvantage. Explain again why that is.
So the racetrack's concrete, and with the 2 long practices, all the rubber that got laid down, the racetrack got blackened up. Think about it like the racetrack is sandpaper, and all that rubber is sawdust that loads into it. Well, that sandpaper doesn't have as much grip then. Well, the racetrack's the same way. It's loaded up with rubber, and it doesn't have the grip for the tires to get into. As these cars go around here, they're actually picking it up. The cold tires, although they're pumped up in air pressure, they're still cold. They're picking that rubber up. So they're kind of sliding on that rubber, but they're cleaning the racetrack up. where the later cars will have a cleaner racetrack that has a little more bite.
Carson Hocevar was quicker on lap 2, 19.981. Riley Herbst is on the green flag, just clipped the curbing in turns 1 and 2. Let's see if that's going to cost him on the stopwatch as he comes to the white flag.
And Riley Herbst will get lap number 1 of 2. He'll be second quick so far behind Carson Hocevar. So indeed, going to try to pick it up here on this second trip around the half-mile Martinsville Speedway. Dives for turn number 3, downshifts from 4th down to 3rd gear, and here he comes back to the line.
Back end wants to step out on him, coming out of 4, and he pulls under the checkered flag. He will stay second of the 5 that have turned in time. Shane Van Gisbergen getting ready to pull out onto the racetrack. After Shane, it'll be Cole Custer, Todd Gilliland, Ryan Blaney, the winner here from last fall. Ty Gibbs, one of the fastest cars we've seen all day here, along with Ty Dillon, Brad Keselowski, and Ross Chastain.
Of the 3 Trackhouse Racing entries here this weekend, Shane Van Gisbergen was the fastest in single lap speeds among that race team. So we'll find out what kind of laps he'll be able to put down after we hear from Chris Wilner.
And standing here with Josh Berry. Welcome back to Martinsville. A lot of great memories here. It's obviously been a great couple weeks for you guys. How was your car today, and how's the speed in this Ford?
I feel really good about it, honestly. I thought we had a really good practice there. Long run speed looked really solid. So everybody on the 21 team brought a really fast Ford Dark Horse Mustang. So just excited to get going. Just need to have a solid qualifying effort, get us a good pit stall, and go racing Sunday.
With so many laps here, how does that play to your advantage, especially tomorrow with the long run?
Yeah, I think this is just a place where I feel comfortable, right? Because I've raced so much, coming here with a late model car all those years, doing the test day and all that stuff. I've just got a lot more laps here than a lot of the places we go, so it makes it better.
That's Josh Berry getting ready to qualify the Wood Brothers Ford Mustang here. Felt really good in the long run. We'll see what happens here in qualifying.
This is a very pro Wood Brothers racetrack, of course, headquartered down the road in Stewart, Virginia. Alex, if Josh Berry wins this race tomorrow, they will destroy these grandstands in a fit of celebration.
We would have no trouble with traffic leaving here tomorrow because everybody would want to stay and celebrate. And why not? When you look up the word gentleman in the dictionary, there should be a photo of any one of the Woods because they are just absolutely class act people celebrating 75 years in NASCAR and in racing here this season. And what a celebration it is, given the fact that they started in Stewart, Virginia, just down the road, like you mentioned. Martinsville Speedway, near and dear to the Wood Brothers' hearts. You walk through the pedestrian tunnel to the infield, they've got all kinds of photographs lining both walls of all the history here at Martinsville with the Wood Brothers racing team.
Shane Van Gisbergen has turned in the 3rd fastest lap after Cole Custer has turned in the fastest lap. 20.244 was the last, but the one that puts him on the pole, 19.890. Cole Custer goes to the top. He leads over Carson Hocevar, Shane Van Gisbergen, Riley Herbst, Cody Ware, Casey Mears, and Burt Myers, the 7 that have taken time so far.
Todd Gilliland will take the green flag right now, and he'll take his Front Row Motorsports entry down into turn number 1 as he has a solid-looking line through turns 1 and 2 on his opening of 2 laps.
Here's Todd Gilliland off the end of the back straightaway. Again, if you're just joining us, everybody gets 2 laps in this qualifying session. There is no second round. Whoever leads at the end of the 38th car to take time will lead the field to the green flag tomorrow in the Cookout 400. Todd Gilliland just turned in his 2nd fastest lap on lap 1.
That's a solid opening lap for Gilliland. Impressive as he makes his way up off turn 4, trying to get just a little bit more out of the car. He slipped a little bit there in the midpoint of turns 3 and 4.
Under the checkered flag, Todd goes, and he will definitely be slower on lap number 2. So it's Custer, Gilliland, Hocevar, Van Gisbergen, and Riley Herbst, the Fast 5 at this juncture of qualifying.
The black and gold Advance Auto Parts entry from Team Penske, that is Ryan Blaney, goes to the gearbox and gets that Ford Mustang Dark Horse up to speed. Here comes Blaney up off of the corner, has not started inside the top 10 in his wins here at the Martinsville Speedway, but it doesn't necessarily matter all that much. He obviously would like to win pole position and get his season back on track after the last few races. Just been brutal.
3 DNFs in a row for Ryan Blaney. 2 of those engine failures. Here he comes across the line. Let's see where he stacks up as he takes the white flag. Ryan Blaney, 4th of the 9 that have taken time. Steve Post?
William Byron down here has the Liberty University colors on the car. Talking to Justin Haley about Justin's moment out there. The Liberty University colors, of course, the local university here for you, William. Had a little practice today. How was the race car?
Yeah, I think we were in the ballpark for sure. Had good grip. Just need to tune the balance a little bit. So yeah, I think same old Martinsville stuff. Just try to hit a good qualifying lap here and see what we got.
You mentioned the balance, and when we talk about long run, how challenging is it to balance the early laps in a long run to benefit on the late laps?
Yeah, I mean, it's just you got to take care of it a little bit, getting going here, low air and everything, and fresh track. So, yeah, I think once you get a few laps in, you can really start burning it in. So, yeah, we'll see what we got.
See what happens. That's William Byron. He'll be qualifying a little bit later on here in this group.
Can't ever count William Byron, crew chief Rudy Fugel, out by any stretch of the imagination. On the track qualifying right now, Mike, is one of the faster cars from practice.
And that would be Ty Gibbs. That Monster Energy Toyota Camry is under the white flag right now. Lap 1 in the books. 19.817 seconds. He is the fastest of the 10 to take time. Let's see if he can get faster on lap number 2.
Here he comes up off turn number 4. That matte black and lime green Monster Toyota flashes by start finish. He will be faster on his first lap than he is on his second, but still, lap number 1, good enough right now to be the fastest of the 10 drivers that have taken time so far. From Martinsville Speedway, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Welcome to Martinsville. Martinsville isn't your average everyday racetrack. It's truly one of a kind. The speed, the shape, the history, the hospitality, heck, even the hot dogs. A one-of-a-kind weekend at the short track of NASCAR with trucks on Friday, Xfinity on Saturday, and Cup Series on Sunday. It's one event too amazing to miss. NASCAR weekend at Martinsville Speedway, March 28th through the 30th. Get your tickets now at martinsvillespeedway.com.
Local radio brings people together like never before.
It's a beautiful hometown weekend out there. We've got
your local stations keep you informed and involved with music, talk shows, and real-time news updates you can trust. We are live and local. We are America's broadcasters, connecting you to what matters most. Text radio to 52886 and tell Congress to support your local radio stations.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to STOP.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Here at the Martinsville Speedway, is we've got some cloud cover rolling in on overcast afternoon here at Martinsville. No threat of precipitation here today, just a little meandering clouds that are coming by. We talk so much, Todd Gordon, about this racetrack. With the asphalt straightaways, the second and third lanes to drivers right in the corners are asphalt, but the grip and the fastway in the corners is concrete. So when you have sun that's been beating down, now it goes to cloud cover, does that add grip like a lot of racetracks?
Concrete's not as temperamental and sensitive to sunshine or cloud cover because it's lighter in color. It doesn't absorb as much heat. That's one of the pieces, I think, on the asphalt racetracks. It's what that asphalt absorbs of the sunshine. So I don't think that'll be as big a deal here, but we are seeing the racetrack seems like it's starting to pick some of that rubber up.
Let's check in with Chris Wilner.
Ryan Preece standing outside his beautiful Ford Mustang. I mean, the metallic blue just really sticks out, Ryan, in this Martinsville sunshine. Is it as fast as it looks today?
Yeah, I feel pretty good about it. That blue chrome just really sticks out on this fast and old Ford Mustang. So, yeah, I love coming here to the pay-per-clip. I've won here a couple times in a modified. It's always a special place to me. And, when you come on down that hill and you see this racetrack sitting in the hole, there's nothing like it. So, ready to have some fun here the next, for qualifying in the race.
You mentioned a lot of experience, obviously the success here. What does it take to go fast, especially here in qualifying where you got to put it all on one lap?
Yeah, it looks like some guys are hanging on here for qualifying, so we'll have to see. I don't know. We got in the pool before, and it'd be nice to do it again.
Certainly will. That was in 2023. Ryan Preece getting ready to qualify his RFK Ford Mustang.
Ty Dillon on the racetrack right now. Lap number 1 will put him 6th overall of the 11 drivers who have taken time. Ty Gibbs is the fastest. Cole Custer is second quick. Todd Gilliland is third. Carson Hocevar gets kicked back to 5th because Ty Dillon's second lap was pretty good. So Ty Dillon is 5th. Carson Hocevar, Ty Dillon fourth. Carson Hocevar is back to fifth now.
Ryan Blaney, Shane Van Gisbergen, Riley Herbst, Cody Ware, Casey Mears, Burt Myers, the 11 that have qualified so far. Still to come, Ross Chastain, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Daniel Suarez, and John Hunter Nemechek. Brad Keselowski takes the green flag as we check in with Steve Post.
When you come to the Virginias, you come to North Carolina, one of the sponsors that's on all kinds of late models and trucks and local cars is Black's Tire Service, Black's Tire and Wheel Distributors. They're on A.J. Allmendinger's car here, so local company sponsoring you, A.J., but I want to talk about this racetrack. You've been awful good here, a couple of second-place finishes. What's it take to be good and have a good day and a good weekend here at Martinsville?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Since the new-gen car, we haven't been great around here. I thought practice was okay, but it's such a fine line. Get the thing turning, but not have enough grip off the corner, and then you get the rear in the racetrack, and you're too tight in the center. But for a qualifying lap, you definitely got to have this thing roll the center. Just have just enough bite for a lap off the corner. But yeah, we got 70 locations here, so anybody up there in the grandstands in North Carolina, South Carolina area, we come in there. You know, the Benton family have owned this thing for 95 years, so it's I've had them in the past at Darlington, so it's really cool to have them on the car here at Martinsville, and we're going to go try to put on a show.
2 straight top 10 finishes here in the 2025 season. How important is momentum and continuing that as we roll through this portion of the year?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just about trying to go out there and just, you know, all we can do is do the best that we can do is execute. That's what we've done the last couple of races. You know, I feel like, of course, you want to win, but for how we struggled at this racetrack, if we could run inside the top 15, top 12 all day, that'd be a great day. So it starts here with these 2 laps.
See what happens. That's A.J. Allmendinger. Goals. Good, solid goals here, and we'll see how they do here this afternoon.
A.J. Allmendinger ready to get some laps in. Right now, Ross Chastain's first lap is a good one. He'll go to number 2 on the leaderboard on lap number 1. We'll see if Ross Chastain can dig for a little more.
Right now, he has turned the identical time that Ty Gibbs turned in, 19.850. Let's see if he gets any faster on lap number 2.
The answer is no. He will stay right there on lap number 2. His first lap was the same time as Ty Gibbs' second lap. So Ty Gibbs still the fastest overall. Chastain now second. Cole Custer, Todd Gilliland, and Brad Keselowski. His first lap good enough for 5th. His second lap was just not very good as he missed the corners over braking the race car.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr. comes to the green flag as we check in with Chris.
Joey Logano is the 2018 winner here at Martinsville Speedway. Is Ricky Stenhouse Jr. going flying by. Joey, how was your 20 minutes of practice, and what translates here to 1 lap in qualifying?
Yeah, it seems like our Shell Pencil Mustang hung on there in the long haul, which doesn't really tell us much for qualifying, but just a lot of things you change for qualifying. So hopefully we make the right changes, and she's got some speed. We start towards the front.
What's been the key to as Ricky goes flying by, what's been the key to your guys' consistency here? 11 straight top 10s at Martinsville.
It's only 1 win, so I mean, the consistency part's nice. I'd rather consistently be in victory lane.
All right, that's Joey Logano getting ready to qualify. We'll see what translates in his qualifying run for the 2018 winner.
Only wins matter to Joey Logano, and it's nice to have great finishes and great days, but winning is everything when you get to this level of motorsports, and that's the kind of mentality I'd like to have in my driver.
Indeed. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. had a very interesting qualifying lap. He turned in the 10th fastest lap of the 14. The second lap was a handful for Ricky as he brings that Sunny D machine back to pit road. Here's Daniel Suarez. He'll go under the green flag as we go back to Chris. Steve.
Denny Hamlin down here has the progressive colors on his Toyota Camry. And Denny, when we look at Martinsville, so much success. The bad news is it's been 10 years since you won, but the good news is 4 of the last 5 races you've been to the top 5. Where are you at right now as we enter this weekend with this place?
Yeah, I mean, we've been we've had some dominant races like we were in 22, but kind of since then we've been a 3rd, 4th place car, which the stats should kind of reflect that. So the one thing about it is we definitely made some big changes for this race here to try to get better for the fall. And, in practice, I thought it was definitely better than what we've had.
What areas, big picture, what areas did you feel you needed to be better on?
I can't say that. Not publicly.
All right. But you feel you gained on it?
We've gained on it.
There we go, keeping it very close to the vest. That's Denny Hamlin down here. And, yeah, he mentions the fall. this is the next to last race, and this sets the final spot or two into the championship race at Phoenix. So with an eye to the fall, they've made some adjustments. We'll see how they fare this weekend for Denny Hamlin.
You always look ahead in this sport, and with Denny Hamlin and that race team already looking ahead to the penultimate race of the season, some people can look at that and go, wait a minute, you're going to miss out on what you're trying to accomplish right now. But you almost have to do that, don't you?
Yeah, you do. I mean, the important part of the season, when you're somebody like Denny Hamlin, who is habitually a championship contender and a playoff car, you're not looking at, I need to go make the playoffs today. You're thinking beyond that. How do I make my playoff run better? And that's what Denny's working on here at Martinsville. Is, you know, this is a very important race, the second to last race of the season. This may be the make or break of making the championship four. You've got to have a good notebook here to build on for the fall.
John Hunter Nemechek has just turned in the second fastest lap, 19.844 seconds. That puts him second to Ty Gibbs and right in front of Ross Chastain, Cole Custer, and Todd Gilliland. Here's a former Martinsville winner, Christopher Bell, his yellow and black Toyota Camry, coming out of turn number 4 to begin his qualifying session.
That car's actually got some green down the lower parts of it, down the side skirts. They're grass clippings that are flying up off the ground because DeWalt's pushing their mowers and whatnot, and their weed whackers getting set here for lawn maintenance time. But yeah, I walked up and I saw that and I was like, wait, what do you got on the race car here? Took a second look at it, but yeah, it's a very interesting paint scheme, and we'll see how fast it is, Mike.
To the top of the board he goes, 19.718 seconds, and he's in the throttle for lap 2. That's 96.034 miles an hour. Let's see if he can improve the time on lap number 2.
Off turn number 4, here comes Christopher Bell down to the line. Checkered flag goes in the air, and Christopher Bell will not be faster on lap 2, but lap 1 is stout. It's good enough, and that puts Toyota's 1, 2, 3 at the moment.
And then the Chevrolet of Chastain, the Ford of Cole Custer, they are the top 5. Todd Gilliland is 6th. Daniel Suarez, 7th fastest, with Brad Keselowski in 8th. Ty Dillon, 9th, and Carson Hocevar rounding out the top 10.
Ryan Blaney currently 11th. Shane Van Gisbergen is 12th. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 13th. Riley Herbst is 14th. Cody Ware 15th. Casey Mears is 16th. And Burt Myers is 17th.
Coming up, we've got Kyle Busch, Michael McDowell, Austin Dillon, Eric Jones, Josh Berry, Austin Cindric. Right now, Noah Gragson is on the racetrack, and he is on the green flag coming to the white flag.
Here he comes. A little wiggle on the race car exiting turn number 4. That'll cost him on the stopwatch. As a matter of fact, he'll be 6th quick right now overall. The car wiggles again on exit of turn number 2 as he applies the power.
Right now, he comes off the end of the back straightaway trying to dial up the low lane. He'll do exactly that. He'll bring that orange, brown, and white A&W root beer sponsored machine to the line, and he will stay 6th fastest of the 18 that have taken time so far.
So Noah Gragson will take that car back to the pit lane, and we look at the exit of pit road off turn 2. The bright blue car of Kyle Busch pulls onto the racetrack, quickly gets through the gearbox and up to speed. The Lucas Oil sponsored entry up off turn 4, and Kyle Busch will take the green flag.
Talked to Keith Rodden of Richard Childress Racing earlier this morning in the garage, saying they're doing something totally different for Kyle. He's really struggled here lately, especially last fall. It turned into some good, consistent, long-run lap times earlier in practice. Now let's see what he can do with his 1-2 lap punch here in qualifying.
That's a solid turns 3 and 4 for Kyle Busch. This looks like a pretty good lap as he comes across the line.
Right now, he is 2nd on the leaderboard behind Christopher Bell, 19.811 seconds. He is still in the throttle as he woes that Chevrolet down off the end of the back straightaway.
Needs to pick up about 1/10 of a second if he wants to have any shot at knocking Christopher Bell off the top. Here's the checkered flag.
Checkered flag in the air for Kyle Busch, and he will not get quicker. He'll lose 1/10, but stay 2nd overall on the leaderboard. From Martinsville Speedway, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
You've never been one to idly watch someone else do something for you. There's pride in self-reliance, in working with your hands, in harnessing the power of an E3 spark plug with Diamond Fire technology, yielding better engine performance. You have a choice to make. Take control of your ride, of your life, or be the passenger princess of it. Visit e3sparkplugs.com to put the power in your hands.
.com.
Imagine a scrapbook
filled with all your favorite memories of 75 years at Darlington Raceway. Now imagine that scrapbook going 190 miles per hour.
Have you ever? No, I've never.
You don't have to imagine. You need to get to Darlington, where the drivers of today tackle the track too tough to tame, just like they did your first time. NASCAR Throwback Weekend at Darlington Raceway, April 5th and 6th. Get your tickets now at darlingtonraceway.com. Discover South Carolina.
Back at Martinsville Speedway, we're in the middle of qualifying for the Cookout 400 coming up tomorrow here at the Paperclip. We have a total of 19 cars that have taken time so far. Right now, Christopher Bell, the fastest of them all, 19.718 seconds. Kyle Busch has just turned in the second fastest lap. Ty Gibbs falls to third. John Hunter Nemechek, a good qualifying effort for John Hunter and Legacy Motor Club. They're right now in fourth, and Ross Chastain of Trackhouse Racing is in fifth.
The rest of the top 10 so far, we'll see Cole Custer, the fastest Ford Mustang, at least to this point in qualifying. Noah Gregson is 7th. Then it's Todd Gilliland in 8th. Daniel Suarez is 9th, and Brad Keselowski 10th.
Run you further through the field now. Ty Dillon right now is 11th. Carson Hocevar is 12th. Ryan Blaney is 13th. Shane Van Gisbergen is 14th, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in 15th. Riley Herbst, 16th fastest, followed by Cody Ware in 17th. Casey Mears at 18th. Burt Myers is in the 19th position. Alex, the 20th car for qualifying, is going out onto the racetrack right now.
Out of Spire Motorsports, it's Michael McDowell. He's got a black and white Chevrolet this weekend with Rockingham Speedway on board that car as they promote the big Easter weekend of Xfinity and Truck Series racing. We'll have that for you here on Motor Racing Network and the NASCAR Racing Network.
And also, the ARCA Menard Series East will be racing that weekend as well. Triple header coverage from The Rock. White flag is out. Michael McDowell on lap 1, fourth fastest.
Not a bad lap for Michael McDowell there. He makes his way down the backstretch. We check back in on the pit lane with Chris Wilner.
And Denny Hamlin giving Chase Briscoe a little bit of a pep talk here before we go qualifying. Chase Briscoe coming to a racetrack he has been super good at. 5 top 10s in the last 6 starts here at Martinsville Speedway, and it's been an impressive run as Chase Briscoe finally ended a little bit of a slump at Homestead Miami Speedway, finishing in the 4th position. So he's got his Toyota ready to go here in line as Denny kind of gives him one last little bit of instruction here, but trying to find some speed a little bit. I know listening to Chase during practice, they were trying to find a little more of the short run, but maybe felt the long run was a little bit better. But he's got the Bass Pro Shops colors back on here at Martinsville Speedway as qualifying continues, and we'll see what kind of effort he can do. But we'll step in here and get a word with Chase and see what he thinks about qualifying. Chase, you've been really good here as of late. How's the car here for qualifying?
I don't know. I was not super thrilled about it in practice. It was just lacking grip kind of everywhere. So, these guys obviously kind of have it figured out for qualifying here. So hopefully, I can do my job and just put a good lap together. Should be in the mix. We were okay on the long run, just short run speed. I wasn't very good. So don't know what that's going to mean necessarily for qualifying, but we're going to find out what we got for our Bass Pro Shops Toyota, and hopefully I can start up front. That's a big part of this place. To have a good day tomorrow, you need to start up front, so hopefully we can do that.
A good run last week at Homestead kind of get you guys back after a string of 14th place or worse finishes. What does that do for this team as you move forward here to Martinsville?
Yeah, hopefully we can kind of string it together now, just get some momentum going. This is something that we've had good speed, we just haven't necessarily had the result to show it. So it was nice last week to finally just finish kind of where we felt like we should have. So hopefully can build on that and just keep it rolling.
Appreciate your time. Chase Briscoe getting ready to qualify.
When you make the short list of drivers that could perhaps maybe be a factor to win this race tomorrow, it was interesting to note that statistically Chase Briscoe could be put into the sleeper category. However, after what he just told Chris and after practice, maybe scratching our heads, but they always find a way to get him to the front. Obviously, in the past, it was Stewart-Haas Racing. Now, his first Martinsville run with Joe Gibbs Racing.
Yeah, and especially when you come to a racetrack, doesn't matter what race team you're with, that you run well at and have had success at, that gives you that little extra air of confidence about yourself. So while he may not be great on the short run, which means qualifying may suffer just a bit, I expect Chase Briscoe to put together 400 solid laps tomorrow.
Austin Dillon has put in the 7th fastest lap. Eric Jones just took the checkered flag. His Legacy Motor Club Toyota has just logged the 5th 18th fastest time so far.
He slid the race car through the corners, did Eric Jones, as Josh Berry will take the green flag to Steve Post.
Kyle Larson will be the last car to go out based on the win last week at Homestead Miami Speedway and the Matrix down here. So, Kyle, you had a pretty good long run in your practice session there. What's your take? What's your sense on how good your race car is for this weekend?
Yeah, I don't ever really know, to be honest. So, yeah, just got to get into a rhythm and, you know, get the most out of my car that I can get out of it. I always feel like the car is better than I am here too. So yeah, just gotta, like I said, get in that rhythm and hopefully we'll be, you know, good on the long run.
Fascinating to hear that, because 4 of the last 5 races you've had a podium finish, including a win here. And I know at one time you never thought you'd get the hang of this. What have you learned about this racetrack, and is there something that does give you comfort in that recent history?
Just that my car is good. Really, I think that's where the success comes from. So. Yeah, I think it's still a challenge for me, but for some reason we've been finishing good, so hopefully we can keep it up.
Wow, that is Kyle Larson. Man, I'll tell you what, I think driver has a little bit to do with that as well. Yeah, they bring good race cars, but Kyle Larson's been wheeling that thing, and those stats over the last 5 or 6 races here are pretty impressive for sure.
Josh Berry on lap 1 was the 11th fastest car. Alex on lap 2, he rocketed up the leaderboard
to the number 4 spot for the Wood brothers. So Josh Berry provisionally is 4th as Austin Cindric brings his highlighter yellow Ford Mustang Dark Horse across the line. First lap for Austin Cindric.
Menards on the quarter panels. They had a handful in practice earlier this morning. Earlier this afternoon, I should say, just put the 9th fastest time up on the leaderboard. Austin sends it off the end of the back straightaway, hugging the curbing at the bottom of turns 3 and 4. Checkered flag is waving for him at the start-finish line.
And he'll flash by the start-finish line. He'll stay in the number 9 spot. Chris Wilner walking along with the driver who's been among the fastest all day long.
Yeah, and it's Bubba Wallace, second straight week leading the boards in practice between the short run and the long run. Obviously optimistic. What do you have for him here in qualifying?
I don't know. I'll let you know after I finish. Really good just to be here in Martinsville. Love this place. Showing up with a fast car is what you want. So our 23 group did that. Got our McDonald's Toyota Camry solid. Got to hunt the curb and get off the corner, get in deep. Got to do everything perfect to get the pole.
I know we talked last week, the weight lifted off the shoulder to finally put one together and have a good run. You're walking with a little pep in your step. How good does it feel coming to a racetrack here with a little confidence?
Yeah, I mean, confidence is key at the cup level. You show up defeated, no need in showing up at all. So you got to carry the confidence. You got to be bold about what you want to do, but you got to be methodical about it. And I think that's what's changed over the years is you can't just be confident with no mission, right? So just got to put it all together and have some fun.
Appreciate it. Bubba Wallace getting ready to climb into his Toyota, ready to see what he has here in qualifying. But again, really fast in practice on both the short and the long run.
Zane Smith, 9th overall, 19.866, 95.319 miles an hour as he takes that Long John Silver Sport back to the pit area. And now the blue, white, and yellow Napa Chevrolet of Chase Elliott pulls out onto the racetrack.
Find out what kind of short run speed Chase Elliott has here in a matter of about 22 seconds or so. He knew he had a good car on long run speed with practice as he goes in a little high in the middle of turns 1 and 2. Chase Elliott doesn't slip the race car down the backstretch. He's a half a lap away from getting lap 1 in.
He'll ease it to the bottom of turn 3. The car drifts wide just a tad. He'll cut it back to the bottom of turn number 4. White flag is waving. Chase Elliott's first lap in the books.
And it's second fastest for Chase Elliott, about 6/100ths of a second off of pole speed right now, being held by Christopher Bell, digging for just a little bit more. Chase Elliott in turn 4.
Here he comes off the corner, needs just a tad more to win the pole, or at least take the number 1 spot here as we're about halfway done. Chase Elliott will not do it. 19.735 faster on lap 2, but not fast enough to take the number 1 spot away from Christopher Bell.
Rock solid lap, though, for Chase Elliott. It's Christopher Bell, Chase Elliott, Kyle Busch, Ty Gibbs and Josh Berry, currently your top 5. The next driver on the track had a bit of an issue in practice earlier today, and we're speaking of driver Justin Haley.
He came off the end of the front straightaway, and don't know if the hood pins were not tight enough, but the hood came flying over the windshield of the car. They brought him down pit road. They tethered that hood into place, and he'll bring his Spire Motorsports Chevrolet onto the racetrack. Matter of fact, he'll bring it out of turn number 4 to the white flag.
And lap number 1 for Justin Haley. Ooh, that's not where you want to be. He's back in 19th after lap number 1. So Haley, out of 27 drivers, 19th, has got some work to do here on lap 2.
Gainbridge on the quarter panels for Justin Haley. The car drifts up in the middle of the corner, and he's having a difficult time getting back to the throttle off the corner.
He will be slower on lap number 2, so he'll stand on his first lap time and hang in there provisionally on the 19th spot.
Reigning NASCAR Cup Series champion Joey Logano pulls his yellow and red Ford Mustang onto the racetrack. Still to come, and we're clicking them off in a hurry here. Ryan Preece, A.J. Allmendinger, William Byron, Chris Buescher, Chase Briscoe, Tyler Reddick, Denny Hamlin, Bubba Wallace, Alex Bowman, and Kyle Larson still to come. Once Larson goes, that'll be the last car for qualifying, and we'll know where everybody's starting for tomorrow's Cookout 400.
A lot of good race cars, Todd Gordon, still to qualify here, but the lap that Christopher Bell put down, that's a strong number here from what we've been able to see all day long.
Yeah, really impressive. And really, the front row, as it sits right now, Christopher Bell and Chase Elliott, both cars just look like they were in the racetrack making speed. Phenomenal runs for both those guys.
Joey Logano has just put in the 3rd fastest lap, 19.762. Can he get a little extra coming off the corner and perhaps maybe challenge Christopher Bell for the top spot?
Checkered flag is out for Joey Logano. He will not improve. He'll stay in position number 3 right now, so a solid run for Joey Logano. As we sit, the top 3 are Toyota and Christopher Bell, Chevrolet and Chase Elliott, and Ford and Joey Logano.
Here comes another Ford onto the racetrack. It's Ryan Preece riding a wave of confidence coming into this race this weekend. Top 10 finishes in the last 2 races. Ryan Preece has just accepted the green flag, and he will begin his 2-lap run to try to take the pole.
He's got a pretty solid launch up off turn number 2 down the backstretch. See what Preece can do as he works into turn 3, goes up the racetrack just a bit.
He was asking a little too much than what the car could give him. Slides up the racetrack. He will be 21st on lap 1. Let's see if he can gather it in and perhaps maybe make a little headway here on lap number 2.
Makes his way down the backstretch, does Ryan Preece in the Fastenal Ford Mustang Dark Horse. Much better in turns 3 and 4 this time as he makes his way up off the corner.
Checkered flag is waving. Let's see what he got or what he can get here on lap number 2. He was 21st on lap 1. He's only going to 13th on lap number 2 with a lap of 19.884 seconds. From Martinsville Speedway, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Every time the siren sounds or lights flash, someone's life is on the line. At Whelen Engineering, we know first responders carry that weight every day. That's why for over 70 years, we've led the emergency warning industry, designing and manufacturing the lights, sirens, and safety systems they trust right here in America. Because when the mission is critical, there's no room for second best. Whelen Engineering, trusted to protect first responders.
It's now at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com.
You're not going to want to miss tonight's county fair. I'm going to be...
We are your window to your community.
Did you see the last 5 minutes of that football game last night?
Oh, man, I saw the whole thing.
And a lifeline to keep you safe when danger is near.
Everybody who is listening needs to take cover as soon as they can. This is one of the biggest storms.
We are live and local. We are America's broadcasters. Text radio to 52886 and tell Congress you depend on your local radio stations.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to STOP.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Back at Martinsville Speedway, we are winding our way to conclusion here in qualifying for the Cookout 400. Next up to qualify will be A.J. Allmendinger. William Byron queued up as well. Chris Buescher, just a couple of the drivers now still to remain to take their 2 laps of qualifying as we close in on the end of qualifying and get ready to transition into NASCAR Xfinity Series. Coverage for the U.S. Marine Corps 250 coming up at the bottom of the next hour.
Looking forward to that one. That's always a rough and tumble race here at the Martinsville Speedway when the Xfinity Series drivers get after it. Justin Allgaier going after his 3rd win in a row. What a drive for Allgaier it's been here to start the 2025 campaign after breaking through and getting his first Xfinity Series championship just a year ago.
Yeah, to put the races he has together, who recently, they talked about having a lot of bad luck last year. It seems like the cards have fallen in his favor this year as he's come forward.
And, of course, that $100,000 bonus in play, the second installment of the Xfinity Dash for Cash. Alex, you put that kind of bonus money up for grabs on this racetrack. That's like throwing a brisket into a pack of Dobermans.
Yeah, you're right. That's a heck of a carrot hanging at the end of that stick, and they're going to absolutely go after it here and try to collect a little extra cash when they leave Martinsville Speedway. Maybe they can stuff that grandfather clock with some more of those dollar bills. Those are Benjamins, actually. I mean, those aren't the kind that jingle. Those are the kind that fold.
Yep. I'm with you, my friend. Here's A.J. Allmendinger coming off the corner. White flag in the air for A.J. Lap 1 in the books, 15th overall, 19.893 seconds. He'll bring that machine to the back straightaway. Let's see if he can get a little faster on lap 2.
Here he is into turn number 3. Car wiggles going into turn number 3. Normally a sign a driver really drives it in deep and this loses some traction with the race car, and he will not gain on lap number 2. He'll stay in 15th.
Up next, William Byron, a former winner here at the Martinsville Speedway. Of course, he ran the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series race last night. Daniel Hemrick took the checkered flag in that one. William now focused with his Liberty University Chevrolet. That red, white, and blue livery comes off the corner. William Byron, a solid exit on the warm-up lap, coming to the green flag.
Had a chance to say hello to his crew chief, Rudy Fugel, down in the garage earlier today. Optimistic about coming back to Martinsville again, and heck, why not with the success that they have had individually as a team. But Hendrick Motorsports, we highlighted that at the top of the broadcast. This is a team that gets around this place better than anybody.
If one of the Hendrick cars wins tomorrow, it'll be the 30th win for Hendrick here at this legendary racetrack. Lap 1 for William, 4th quickest overall, 19.782 seconds. That's the equivalent to 95.723 miles per hour.
In this NASCAR Cup Series, at this level of competition, the slightest little slide of the tires will cost you greatly. And you may feel like you're right there, Todd, but it only takes literally a foot and a half of sliding your tires to give up.
And if it hesitates you to getting back to throttle and where you are, that just exaggerates itself down these long straightaways. It seems like you've got to be able to make that and get that drive off the corner. That's where these guys have been really good.
It has been 14 starts since Chris Buescher went to victory lane. He did it at Watkins Glen International on a road course back in September of last year. He'll bring his machine onto the racetrack. Chris Buescher dialing up the low lane in turns 3 and 4. He'll look for the white flag. Let's see what he's got in that Ford Mustang here for lap 1.
He's got old El Paso on the quarter panels and a big taco on that race car, so a lot of folks are going to be paying close attention to that, especially after lap 1.
3rd quickest, 19.758 seconds. A good lap 1 for Chris Buescher. And Alex, it looks like he's got a solid lap 2 on the way.
He's digging for a little bit more. Here he comes to the checkered flag, trying to improve on his first lap. He will not be able to do it, but a solid lap number 1 for Chris Buescher puts him 3rd overall.
We are getting down to crunch time here. 6 cars left to qualify. Up next will be Chase Briscoe, followed by Tyler Reddick, Denny Hamlin, Bubba Wallace, Alex Bowman, Kyle Larson, and then we will be done with qualifying. You heard from Chase Briscoe a few moments ago tell Chris Wilner that not necessarily happy with the car in practice. Let's see what kind of knobs have been turned on that machine to make him fast in qualifying. Green flag is out for Chase Briscoe.
Michael McDowell and a handful of other drivers here have been able to gain over a half a second here in qualifying based off of what they put in their best lap in practice. See if Chase Briscoe can gain some of that as well. Here he is up off turn number 4. White flag is in the air for Briscoe.
He'll bring his Bass Pro Shops Toyota Camry across the line in position number 6, 19.805 seconds. Chase Briscoe is on the back straightaway right now. This qualifying is so snug. The fastest lap time is 19.754. You don't get to like 19.9 until you get to Zane Smith in 14th. Very, very tight qualifying effort.
Talking about a moment ago, the slightest slip there, and to Todd's point, if you have that and you can't apply the power down to the racetrack as quickly as you would like to, that will cost you. Even just literally the blink of an eye puts you anywhere from what you hope would be a top 5 to 10th to 15th. That's how tight it is.
Tyler Reddick coming off a disappointing outing last weekend at Homestead Miami Speedway, looking to avenge those challenges of a weekend ago. He is under the green flag. He'll take his Toyota Camry off the end of the back straightaway. Tyler Reddick gliding into the bottom of turn 3, coming out of 4, looking for the white flag.
That's a solid looking exit here up off the corner as he glides that car into the corner, and then it gets on the throttle. But I'm not sure what happened off turn number 4, but it really hurt his lap as he falls to 11th on his first lap.
19.842 is the time for Tyler Reddick. The car slides wide on him in the apex of turns 3 and 4. Alex, it doesn't look like it's going to be faster than lap 1.
He's charging turn 1 and turn number 3, which means he really moves up the track, but he gets a lot faster on his second lap. He'll rocket up to the number 5 spot on lap number 2.
Now, former Martinsville winner Denny Hamlin pulls his progressive Toyota onto the racetrack. Remember, it's been 10 years since Denny Hamlin has won here at the Paperclip. That car had a lot of speed last weekend on the 1.5-mile racetrack, and of course Denny loves short tracks. He has taken home a lot of cabbage, as it were, here from Martinsville and other short tracks on the NASCAR Cup Series schedule, and obviously being a native of Virginia on the other side of the state towards the state capital of Richmond, now comes to southwestern Virginia trying to win the pole and potentially go to victory lane tomorrow in the Cookout 400. Here he is. Lap 1 is in the books.
For Denny Hamlin, he'll go to the number 3 spot. So Hamlin, a solid opening lap. He's going to stay on the track and keep chugging along. He's got to try to get a little bit more. Nope, he's going to give it up. He realized he may have gotten the most out of the race car he could possibly get. He will forfeit his second lap and stand on lap number 1's time.
3 cars left to run. Bubba Wallace, Alex Bowman, and Kyle Larson as Denny Hamlin brings his car onto the pit lane. Here comes Bubba Wallace. He'll take his red, orange, and black Toyota onto the racetrack for his 2 laps of qualifying.
Makes his way over onto the front straightaway. Green flag goes in the air for Bubba Wallace. The McDonald's Toyota into turn number 1. Hugs the bottom of the racetrack. This is a pretty solid looking turns 1 and 2 for Bubba.
Fastest car in practice in single lap speed a couple of hours ago. Let's see if he can be the fastest car in single lap speed in qualifying. He brings the golden arches to the start-finish line to take the white flag.
As he put the throttle down off turn number 4, the car broke loose just a bit. That will cost him. He'll be 8th fastest on lap number 1, but Bubba's not giving up yet. He's back in turn 3.
He'll get a second shot at it. He'll dive it deep into the corner. He has a good entry. He's got a good exit. Let's see if he can improve now and give Christopher Bell a run for his money.
Across the line, he will improve from 8th up to 6th. However, Christopher Bell maintains at the top of the leaderboard as we get down to it. Just 2 cars remain.
And the next one on the racetrack will be Alex Bowman from Hendrick Motorsports at Ally Chevrolet. Of course, starting next to last in qualifying based on the successes of a weekend ago. Looked like he was going to get win number 1 of the season last weekend at Homestead Miami Speedway. Hit the wall late in the going. That gave the lead and the win to Kyle Larson. But it's Alex Bowman now that's on the clock on his first lap of record here at Martinsville.
He's already rolling out of the throttle, stabbing the brakes for turn number 3. Bowman, rock solid. Let's see what his exit of turn 4 is like. And lap number 1 for the Ally Chevrolet.
He'll take that black and purple Chevrolet across the start-finish line. 3rd fastest on the first lap. 19.738. That's 95.937 miles an hour. corner. He's still in the gas, drives it in deep into the corner. Let's see if he can improve on lap 2.
Trying to stand on the throttle, coming back to the line. Alex Bowman across the stripe. He will not improve. He'll stay in position number 3. So Christopher Bell is in a good spot. He's guaranteed to start on the front row. Question is, will he be the pole winner, or will it be the next driver pulling on the track?
And then there was one. The next driver onto the racing surface will be Kyle Larson, winning a week ago at Homestead Miami Speedway in the Straight Talk Wireless 400. He'll bring his red, white, and blue Chevrolet across the line. That HendrickCars.com livery now under the green flag as he exits turn 2.
As he makes his way onto the back straightaway. Through the gearbox he goes from 3rd to 4th gear. Now downshifts back down to 3rd in turns 3 and 4. Lap number 1 for Kyle Larson.
He'll bobble a tad coming off the corner. White flag is waving. Will he get the pole on lap number 1? No. He will be 4th fastest, 19.755 seconds. That's 95.854 miles an hour. He sits behind Christopher Bell, Chase Elliott, and Alex Bowman, the top 3. Here he comes off the corner. Checkered flag is waving. Will he win the pole here at Martinsville?
He will not. Christopher Bell grabs pole position for the Cookout 400 in the NASCAR Cup Series. And a sigh of relief for Christopher Bell. The driver is crew chief Adam Stevens. Christopher Bell will lead the field to the green flag. We'll hear from him in a moment. From Martinsville Speedway, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Hey folks, Kyle Petty here. Victory Junction is celebrating 20 incredible years of camp for children with serious medical conditions. And the best part? Because of the generosity of friends from around the world, camp is completely free for the families we serve. Make your gift today at victoryjunction.org/donate and be a part of something truly special. Together we can make a difference for kids and gear up for even more unforgettable experiences.
NASCAR driver, and I'm very excited to announce the NASCAR Cup Series is coming to Mexico. For the first time in history, NASCAR Cup Series will leave the United States and visit Mexico City. See you at the Autódromo Hermano Rodriguez from June 13 to June 15. Fast cars, sharp turns, and the magic of Mexico. Let's race. Get your tickets for the NASCAR Mexico City weekend on Ticketmaster.
Qualifying is over for tomorrow's Cookout 400. Christopher Bell has won the pole position with Chase Elliott, Alex Bowman, Kyle Larson, and Denny Hamlin, your top 5 starters for tomorrow's race.
So we set our sights now to the NASCAR Xfinity Series after we hear from the pole winner, Christopher Bell, who's with Steve Post.
96.034. Christopher, you and I talked, and you talked about your struggles here. And you said this is one of those days we need a good qualifying run to set ourselves up. Pole qualifying for that, or pole is good for that. Congratulations. Tell me about the lap first off.
Yeah, the lap was pretty uneventful. I mean, I told Adam that's probably the easiest qualifying lap I've ever had at Martinsville. It's crazy whenever things are jiving and going well. It's just so smooth and consistent, and it just it turned left whenever I wanted it to turn left, and it drove straight whenever I needed it to drive straight. So, yeah, great start. Huge opportunity to have the number 1 pit stall, and hopefully that we can stay on top of it, man. Just go out here, execute. I would love win number 4, but I'm not going to put the cart before the horse. We need to have a good, solid, just smooth day, and hopefully get some good notes out of tomorrow.
Are there areas that you need to work on or figure you need a little bit better with, or is just in general here that you're hoping now you can accomplish here tomorrow?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like whenever it goes bad in Martinsville, everything goes bad. It's very rarely that you're just like, man, I'm a little bit too tight or I'm a little bit too loose. Most of the time, you're loose here, tight here, loose here, and that's how I felt in practice. It just started getting loose in, then I'm tight center, then I'm loose off. So, I don't know what to think. I mean, after practice, I definitely wasn't as optimistic as I am now, but having a good starting position, it really matters whenever you're not sure about your race car. I think I told you before in practice that whenever you have a great car underneath of you, it doesn't matter where you qualify. You're able to work your way up through the field. But yeah, now we have the track position to start, so it's up to us to keep it.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Christopher Bell picks up the pole position. 19.754 was his time. Again, that was 96.034 miles per hour on the Martinsville Speedway.
Chase Elliott will start on the outside of the front row with Alex Bowman, Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, the top 5 for the Cookout 400. Be sure to join Motor Racing Network tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. NASCAR Live Race Day, and then the 7th race of the NASCAR Cup Series season. For Steve Post and Chris Wilner, along with Todd Gordon and Alex Hayden, I'm Mike Bagley. Thank you so much for spending your Saturday with practice and qualifying coverage with us here on MRN. Don't forget, coming up at the bottom of the hour, we'll have coverage of the NASCAR Xfinity Series, U.S. Marine Corps 250. Until then, so long, everybody.
Motor Racing Network's coverage of practice and pole qualifying for the Cookout 400 has come to you from Martinsville Speedway. Presented on MRN by E3 Spark Plugs. Powerful and fuel efficient. Find E3 at your nearest auto parts store. Our coverage has come to you under an exclusive radio license granted by Martinsville Speedway to the Motor Racing Network, solely for the non-commercial use of our listening audience. Any use of the descriptions and accounts of this event without the express written permission of the Motor Racing Network is prohibited. Today's broadcast was directed by Pat Jagers. Broadcast engineer Steve Fridley. Studio engineer Andy Pachenik. Audio engineer Craig Moore. The president of MRN is Chris Schwartz. Follow NASCAR every day at MRN.com. This broadcast was a production of the Motor Racing Network.